Good evening, everybody. Seeing a quorum of the board present, I call to order the select board meeting for Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. Present among the select board is member Lou Gito, member Deborah Roberts, vice chair Scott Carrera, and member Joe McCrisky and myself. If you would join me, if you're able, in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we launch into the content of our meeting, I'd just like to give Vice Chair Scott Carrera an opportunity to read a notice that he has.
We had a sudden passing of a Stoughton resident, and it's Elizabeth. We all know her as Elizabeth Beth Ventresco. She's the daughter of Peter Ventresco, who is longtime town meeting rep and a member of many committees that we've had in town at different times. Beth was a graduate of Stoughton, 1981. She was a lifelong resident. Her parents were Peter and Elizabeth. Her mom has long since passed too. She has children, Elizabeth Mersey, Angela Malloy, and Anna Mersey. She has one granddaughter, Cecilia, who I met the other night. She has her other siblings are brothers Michael, Lucille, Peter, and Ralph. Beth was a nice girl. A lot of people knew her. She was always fun. She could be tough when she had to be, but it was unexpected. She was only 61, and I just want to say to Peter and her siblings from the board that we can never imagine the fragility of our lives till they're gone. And then the only thing we have left is love and remembrance. So to the Ventresco family, our most humble condolences. And we'll just have a 1 minute moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Carrera. I appreciate that. Okay, on to the business for tonight. I'd like to just begin by saying that we have an extremely packed agenda tonight, and in keeping with kind of a new principle, I think that it's important that we be able to wrap this up by 10 o'clock. I find that at least for myself, I think generally as a board, we do our best work before 10, so we're going to try and finish this up. To that end, we're going to table for tonight item number 12. It's an executive session. We'll likely be meeting. We will have to meet next week and the following week in order to tackle the issues with the budget that we want to address. So we will bring that back for next Tuesday. But for tonight, we're not going to be covering that. I'll just table it. So we won't be covering that, but the next item is citizen comments. Is there anybody who would like to speak? Okay, so we'll actually start with Mr. Banis. I saw his hand first. Since we only have a couple of people who are looking to speak, I'm not going to be quite as diligent to make sure that the time is... we only have, because there's only a couple of people speaking, I won't be as diligent at timekeeping.
I'm going to try to make it 2 minutes, believe me.
I appreciate that.
It's hard for me.
Appreciate that. I'm not going to time it. I'm not going to time
Peter
it.
Banis, Precinct 2, town meeting member. Pull that close, Peter. Yep. Peter Banis, Precinct 2, town meeting member. I started off one of the last meetings. I came to citizens' comments maybe a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned the thing about how politics is just a nasty business, all right? And I'm not on Facebook, okay? And I'm glad I'm not on Facebook, okay? I never signed up for it, okay? I saw it ruin kids at middle school in Brockton, and we had my first grandchild, and I thought I had to get on it. I'm not on it, thank God, okay? It's nasty comments one way or another. If people don't agree, you can't even have a conversation, and it just has become extremely nasty. There's lots of opinions, lots of comments, pro and con, and I'm just glad I'm not part of that. Thank you. The first thing I just want to ask, I know that we've used the buzzword about transparency, okay? And the reason I'm bringing this up, there's issues, and I already spoke to Mr. Coulter about, and we're going to take care of the things I already mentioned. He already has an idea of what I'm looking for. Taxpayers deserve information. They deserve accurate information, and not the comments on Facebook that you don't know what the heck is really the truth, all right? I know there's some report or something that some finance committee members were asking for something about a Collins report. I'm not a finance guy. I don't even know what it is, but I know that we need to have something that we have a better plan for the town as far as the fiscal responsibility for the taxpayers, okay? And I think that's very important. I think we've had 5-year plans. I know Mr. Gito's brought this up for many times, different plans, and I think the citizens just need to know whatever this Collins report is, it's supposed to be helpful, I think, for the people to know about, okay? The other question I want to bring forth, and I already spoke to Mr. Coulter, and he gave me the information, he will come forth with it. There's a lot of people wondering what's happening with the New England Sinai Hospital, all right? And I went by there about 3 weeks ago, and there was a flashing light with the security, and I went up and I asked them, I said, any idea what's going on here? And of course the guy, he's just working for the security company. I said, is it going to be a shelter? I don't know. And of course, even if he knew, he's probably not going to tell me. Who the hell am I to ask him? But we're taxpayers. We kind of want to know that, and a lot of citizens want to know that. Okay, the fire station budget, I've asked since the project went on. I had a meeting with Mr. Coulter when it first went through. We had different ideas about the whole thing, and I know Mr. Cavey, you were involved in that. All right. And I guess we're going to just look for a presentation, and they're going to already take care of it because I already spoke with them. The only thing I recall is that probably a year and a half ago, Pomeroy Associates made a presentation, and they said it's on time and on budget. Obviously, there's been a lot of issues with different things within the fire station and at Freeman Street, but it's running well. It's a beautiful building. I went there when they had the opening. I'm glad we got a new fire station that we needed for 40 years, okay? And of course, I'm not fond of the location, but it's like they say, it's over and done, and I can live with that. The final thing, because of this budget thing, I did ask for a Freedom of Information Act, and I got 600 pages with all the change orders and all that. Well, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with it, so I think they're going to present a short version of the budget in what the three different items would be: the budget and right, for the Prospect Street station. Okay, what was the original allocation? The reason I bring this up, and I think everyone will recall, that it was decided upon that they bundled the 3 projects. And when the Finance Committee years ago voted 1201, don't budget them, don't bundle them, they still did it. So that's certainly been a point all along why that happened, okay? I know that's longer than 2 minutes, but that's pretty good for me. So the transparency issue is something that I appreciate. Mr. Coulter always said he wants to be transparent. He's invited me. I've had one-on-ones with him quite often. Probably a little longer conversations than you wanted, but that's how it goes with me. But thank you very much. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you for joining us. One second. Okay, so Mr. Stagnoni.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. I hope everybody enjoyed the holidays. I'm John Stagnoni. I live at 6 Westview Drive. I'm a candidate for the Board of Selectmen in the coming April. I just wanted to talk to the board instead of putting it on social media. I have been posting on there, unlike Peter. And the select board has on item number 9, the South School and the Jones School sale. Should the debt exclusion pass in April, this is something I would definitely support, is the sale of those buildings. My only other suggestion would be is to, on the Jones School, is to maybe reach out to the Housing Authority and see where it's located close to their others, and if they have any use for the building and would be interested in it. So that would be my only recommendation on that. My other thing, and I've kind of put this up on social media, so I'm going to just bring it out to the board and to the public as a whole. I would challenge the board to take a non-binding pledge to commit to not to raising property taxes over the next 2 years to help offset any debt exclusion that may pass for the new South School this April, and to help the board recognize the impacts of that is to direct the town manager to prepare a projected budgets for those 2 years using new growth and other sources of income the town receives to help see the impact of the pledge. This is something I would consider doing, whether you can do the whole, not do any tax raising over those 2 years, or something more minimal or whatever, but I think we need to consider that. I also would challenge the board to direct the town manager to cap the FY26 budget increase closer to 2.5% over the FY25 budget. The FY25 budget had an overstatement of $968,173 in the retirement debt account, which could be used to cover about almost 25%, if I'm understanding, a $4 million price debt, what the debt exclusion would cost us for the South School. In my opinion, the town should start looking to tighten its belt in FY26 and don't wait until FY27. My last comment would be is if the South School is our top priority, which it would be for me, and I think it is for everybody in town at this point, we would want to have a different outcome in April. The board is going to have to show the taxpayers that they heard them last April and start making some fiscal changes now. I heard the residents. The families that are living paycheck to paycheck, the average $300 a year increase is impactful to these families' lives. We all know it's not just the $300 for the school. It's the increased costs for water, sewer, trash, a year increase, and then it's also homeowners insurance and car insurances and other things. My own personal homeowners insurance went up $500. I'm sure everybody else is seeing theirs going up, and my auto's gone up $300, plus food, and the list goes on. We can't and shouldn't ignore their voices and their struggles. The less income you make, the more impact these increases have on a family. And I appreciate your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Oh, anybody online? Thank you. I told you, I always forget. Is there anybody online who would like an opportunity to speak? Okay, I see a icon with a letter M, with a name with a letter M. I can't see the name though. Marina. Marina.
Marina.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes. Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Marina Ryans, and I'm precinct 7. I just wanted really briefly, the previous guy already covered it, but we just all received the property taxes, and they did went up significantly, and we all know, and I'm personally paying $300 higher for every quarter, which is unacceptable. I'd like to ask each select board member to look into this very seriously. Citizens have been struggling for the last at least 4 years, but I know that real estate taxes didn't go up last year, and I did see the huge jump for the real estate property taxes just for the last year, but prices have not gone up. Last year, they actually have been stale and throughout the 2024 and even lowered. So please, I believe that this extortion, I call it extortion under umbrella inflation, must go down, and that includes not only property taxes but water bills and sewer and trash. So I know that the budget is upcoming, and I'd like you to pay attention how the taxpayers' money are being used. And I encourage you to make sure that every penny is being used wisely. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for your comments. So if there's nobody else who'd like to speak, the citizen comment portion of our meeting is now over. We're going to move on to select board comments. And I'll start to my right. Mr. McCrisky, do you have any comments? No comments. Vice Chair Carrera.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the town manager, Tom. Before we recessed for the holidays, we had Deputy Chief O'Connor in here as a safety officer too, talking about the streets that we put the signs on. Grove Street, they put them in, and they put them on one side. And now they're parking on the other side. And it isn't like 25 feet back from the intersection. There's 2 cars and a pickup on that side, and I think we should put signs from that corner to the front of the start of the 2-family. Because if they're parked there and there's a snowstorm and there's no way, I saw the rubbish packer having a hard time getting around the corner with them there. And I said, I wrote it down so that we could have that. And I don't think we need to have a big meeting. I think just put them up from Pleasant Street into the first 2-family property so that keeps them off the corner.
I'll speak to Deputy O'Connor tomorrow morning, Scott, and I'll speak with Paul Jaffu, make sure those signs get put up immediately.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Thank you very much. Ms. Roberts?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Through you to my fellow Select Board members, I have 2 comments. One is a reminder about the Massachusetts Municipal Association's conference. It's called Connect 351. Specifically on Saturday, January 25th, we'll have a keynote speaker, and it's going to be really, really engaging. We'll have our keynote speaker, Matt Lehrman. Matt has built a national practice focused on the single question: how can people disagree without becoming disagreeable? He's a strategic planner, mediator, and a public engagement facilitator. I think you would enjoy what he has to say, and it allows for a dialogue. The second is I wanted to remind everyone about the town's Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King event. And this is a new flyer, and this focus on teens. We're going to have a really nice activity for teens and tweens. So this one, it's going to be called gaming. And we have a vendor that's coming in that'll specifically have the activity for the teens and tweens. And the name of that vendor is One Up Games. And it's going to be very engaging. And then we have another person. He's an engineer, young professional, and he started a business. And one of the things he's going to talk about with the young is finding your purpose for your career. And he has some computer, not really games, but computer tools to help them identify. And it's going to be Monday, January 20th. That's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it's going to be at the Stoughton Public Library. And we also have events for the young. So we have Peggy Sewick, which will also be the facilitator for the young with arts and crafts and things like that. And then we'll have for the adults, interactive conversations, panel discussions, and guest speakers. It's going to be very eventful, and everyone is invited, and I hope you plan to attend on Monday, January 20th. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Mr. Gito, do you have any comments?
Just to follow up on Selectman Carrara's point, we seem to have a policy that people are not supposed to park on the streets from, I believe it's either January 1st or whatever to the middle of April. So I'm not sure how that's enforced, but maybe we should do some selective enforcement if necessary.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. Yes.
I just wanted to, this isn't going to work. There we go. The parking issue is well, the parking ban for the winter is in effect. The problem is it's 1 a.m. to 6 a.m., I believe. But we have so many areas, and the police department did put up all those signs, and they're going to do that, Scott. They go up on one side, they park on the other side. And we've got to start to look seriously from a zoning enforcement action of the people that have all these units on there, and they're over parking, and they have plenty of room to add on to their driveways in some cases. And granted, there's some neighborhoods that are just very small and can't, and the whole family has a car now. So it's going to be a tough thing, but I've spoken to the police department because I have residents call me quite often because I've been vocal on this subject matter in the past. A lot of people are concerned with the integrity of their neighborhood, and we have to be cognizant of that as well. But I've called a couple times. The police department has, done the enforcement, on these areas. So there is something getting done, but I think we should just put no parking on every street and then give back what we can, because there's just more areas that we can keep up with.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Carrera, do you have a follow-up question or comments?
Just to tag up on what Joe had to say, I was always under the mystique that there was no parking on a state highway. And state highway would be Route 27. As you're heading down towards the square, there's cars parked both sides of the road in those breakdown lanes. And I never see them get tagged. I never see anything. And that's not just for winter. That's during the summer. They're not supposed to be out there because there's no parking on a state highway. That's what it says. So,
Which way do you say? What area?
27. That's a state highway, state route.
Only on the Brockton end, going up.
Oh, no. Back towards.
Sharon?
No, back towards just before the center of town, and also
Starts right at Sumner Street.
the state road starts at just after Wentworth Ave. That's where they pick it up. Actually, it starts at what's the little street that goes into Jones School? What's that? Park Ave.
The signs across the street.
Right.
Right on the corner.
So that's where the cars are parking, in front of all the houses. When you go in that stretch, past Tony Lee House, past Donnie McEachran's, there's always 3 or 4 in front of those rental properties.
They are, and there's been instances where unregistered, uninsured have been on there. But that's a state road. The only thing the police department can do is enforce if it's not registered, not whether it's parked, because the state is the one that, I apologize, the state is the one that sets no parking zones. So they're the only ones that can do the enforcement, unless it's something with an unregistered car. That's at least what the police department told me on the last one, because I know the property you're talking about that had like 6 cars out in front, and then for a while there was a little white trailer.
Yeah.
Well, that little white trailer ended up being unregistered, uninsured, so that's why that was gone, so.
Because I was,
No, it is. It's something we got to deal with, but it's a work in progress.
because it was, it wasn't just like during the day, short time. It was the cars were there overnight till the next morning, because I know Joe gets up and I get up early, so. Thank you.
Thank you both. Yes, if it's on the same topic, I'll definitely let you speak. Okay, I just want to make sure we're not deliberating on a topic that's not on our agenda for too long. Go ahead.
Just want to remind people that we have a town meeting coming up
Thank you.
on February 3rd, I believe. Is that correct? And there is a lot of information available that's real information, not pretend, that that has been put together for people to look at what the alternatives are. This is a very important town meeting. And we are less than a month away from that occurring. I think we ought to be paying attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for reminding everybody of that. Okay, I've got no comments. There's a couple things I want to bring up, but I'll wait until we're going to meet next week. I'll bring it up then. Town manager comments.
She's here. Yes, Mr. Chairman, just to follow up on a couple of things, issues raised by Peter. Very good points. New England Sinai Hospital, there were two, Peter and I have discussed this, two potential buyers for the property. One was a Boston hospital that was considering opening a satellite surgical ward. That bidder has backed out. The second bidder for the property, and we didn't find this out from the owners of Sinai. They've gone radio silent. It's with the people who are interested and have approached the town. So the second bidder was a builder who wanted to build a senior housing center, and I learned on Thursday of last week that bidder has backed away as well. So it's clear that Mount Sinai is asking a pretty hefty price for the property. I've spoken on a number of occasions on a Monday conference call with the state with regard to the two hotels that are being used. They've indicated that they have no interest in renting the Sinai Hospital for that purpose. And I've asked them to keep me posted real time if that policy changes in any way, shape, or form, and I'll pass that information on to the community. The second thing I want to talk about is good news. As you know, as we were preparing the 26 operating budget, there was a $500,000 question as to whether we were going to continue to get reimbursement from the state for lost room tax associated with the hotels being used for the migrant population. We have not received payment since July 1st of last year. We got confirmation last week that the executive office of the governor's executive office, as well as DOR, has filed for reimbursement in a supplemental budget that's being taken up by the legislature next week, and the money for full reimbursement is in that supplemental budget. So we did carry that money in the budget. Thank goodness we now know that it will be reimbursed. Third point I want to make on the fire department, Mark and I spoke with Peter before the meeting. I think it's very appropriate that we have a closeout analysis and a closeout accountability on the budget, and Mark and I will take the lead and schedule that with the developer before they leave the site. Last thing I want to point out, we had a meeting right before New Year's with the chief, the deputy chief, police, of course, with Paul Jaffoon, myself, and a few other people regarding the very topic of parking enforcement. They recognize that there are violations everywhere across town. We developed a plan for getting a hold of that. That plan will take effect next week. But we just want to give constructive notice to the residents that they will be tagged, they will be fined if they are illegally parking, so that they can avoid that type of ticket. And I'll obviously keep this board posted on the notices that are going out and the plan that we're putting in place. So I appreciate you raising that point. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks. There's actually only one other thing I'd just like to bring up, and that is, it's a minor point, but it is something that was brought up during citizens' comments. I just want to clarify, at least, if not clarify, at least provide my own understanding of it, and that's regarding transparency specifically with the Finance Committee, which plays a vital role in our town. It's absolutely critical. They are financial watchdogs, and I have tremendous respect for the work they do and the function they serve for the community. Numerous members of this board have been on the Finance Committee. There's members of the Finance Committee here. Getting them accurate information is critical. And it's something we take very seriously. There's a set of policies regarding transfer of information, which we think is not only appropriate, but really fundamental to being able to make sure that we provide the information quickly, accurately. It gets disseminated so that not just one or two members know, but everybody knows. And that is really to move through the chair of that Finance Committee. And that is a policy that I believe that they developed. It's not a town policy, it's the Finance Committee's policy, though I might be wrong about that. But that's my understanding. To the extent that we have had members of the Finance Committee request documents, that's true. And some of them have requested a number of different types of documents, and we've asked them to transmit those through the chair. It's just a way to make sure that all of this information is getting to everybody. There isn't just one or two people who have it, or there's not version control issues where somebody got it Tuesday, somebody else got it Wednesday, and now you've got two different versions of it, and it can get ugly and confusing. It's just a way of being concise and thoughtful with that. And we do ask, every time we get a request like that, we do ask the members to go through the chair. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. But that is not, I don't believe that reflects on an effort to obfuscate or not be transparent. Far from it. We very much want to honor those requests, but we also can't have 17 people asking members of the town staff for anything that sort of comes to their mind. It chews up a lot of time during a very busy cycle, and so filtering it through their chair has been helpful and appropriate, and we're going to continue to honor that policy until that committee decides to do something else. That's what we're going to be doing as well. So I just wanted to bring that up. Next item is this is a continuation of public hearing from 12/17. This is a water and sewer rate hearing. I know we have a number of people we have Karen and also Keith from the water department. I'm not sure if you're both speaking on this.
Mr. Chairman, may I have a word before they begin their presentation?
Of course, yeah.
So I want the public and the board and the residents to know that the water and sewer accounts, the water and sewer enterprise accounts are solvent, unlike last year, and that the recommendation before you and the motion that's been provided to you is to have no increase for water or sewer for the next 12 months. So Keith and Karen are here with details. You've got the financials in front of you with respect to its financial performance. And it shouldn't take long because there's no increase that we're asking for. We do expect to remain solvent over the next 12 months. And I want to point out that this is off the top of my head, but in the sewer department, we've got an increase of $104,000 in new debt service, interest expense for the work we've done. And in the water department, it's north of $400,000 of interest and principal expense for investments and upgrades we've made in the water infrastructure. In spite of those two very large increases in the budget line items, we remain solvent because of the work, the votes you took a year ago, and because of the citizens' support of the investments that we've been making to upgrade water and sewer infrastructure. In spite of that, we can cover that expense through the existing rate structure. And we've asked Keith and Karen here to answer any questions you may have, but I believe Keith has got a brief presentation that won't take too long.
Sure. Before you begin, I just wanted to also, this is a public hearing, and we have Yeah, if you don't mind, we have a process that we like to follow where Vice Chair Carrera, who's been doing public hearings for
100 years.
Oh, yeah, 100 years. Probably feels like it, at least. Does a great job. And so for the purposes of this section of our meeting, I'm going to be passing the gavel over, and we consider Vice Chair, Acting Chair during the course of the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
You can read it after that, right? Okay. Really?
Yeah.
For 95 days.
A public hearing will be held by the Select Board on, and I'm going to change the date to January 7th, 2025, which is a movement from December 17th, 2024, at 7:30 PM to adjust to the municipal water and sewer rates. The hearing will be conducted in the Great Hall, 3rd floor, Town Hall, 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Mass., or virtually and via Google Meets, and may be broadcast via Stoughton Media Access Television and live stream. Google Meets video link and telephone connection for the public comment can be made by calling the Select Board office at 781-341-1300, extension 9212, or email gpereira@stoughtonmass.gov. Now I'll entertain a motion to open the hearing.
So made.
I have a motion from Ms. Roberts, second from Mr. Gito. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's open. Go ahead.
Also, don't forget to introduce yourself and turn the mics on.
Pull it close to you, Keith.
Yep. Okay, so we'll start off with the sewer department year in review.
Tell us who you are first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Keith Nastasia, water sewer superintendent, and my colleague Karen Brown. So for the sewer department, we're asking that the rates remain the same as what's currently the rates are. Looking into this fiscal year, our revenues so far are $4.5 million, but that's only 2 billing cycles. We have two additional billing cycles. So we're looking into, our future revenues would be $8.8 million. Our debt is $8.2 million. So we're looking at potential retained earnings of $649,000 to going into the year end. So with that, we're requesting that to leave the rates the way they are.
Chairman, as commissioners, would you like to take water and sewer separate in terms of your motion? Oh, Scott, Mr. Vice Chairman, I should be asking you that. You should. Okay.
Is there any questions from the board on the what Keith said about the sewer? Mr. Gito, no. Ms. Roberts? Do you have any comments?
No comments at this time, sir.
Mr. McCrisky? No. Steve? Chairman, Mr. Chairman?
Any questions? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody in the room from the public who wants to speak on the sewer rates? Anybody online? I'll entertain a motion to approve the rate that to set the rate at. Go ahead, Steve.
So should we close the public hearing in this or just because?
No, we'll close it all at once. We'll vote within
Okay,
the next.
so I move that in accordance with General Law, Chapter 83, Section 16, and Article C3-3H of the Town Charter, and any other applicable authority, the board, acting as the sewer commissioners of the town, vote to keep the sewer rate as is for fiscal year 2026.
Second.
I have a second from Mr. McCrisky. Any? Go ahead, Mr. Gito.
Are we going to indicate what those charges are?
I'll read the rest of that.
Three sentences?
So that is a minimum charge per quarter of $94.68, per 100 cubic feet per quarter of $12.53, and that all other fees and charges remain the same. Thank you, sir.
Deborah?
Motion to approve?
Yep. We have
Second.
that. Yep.
Yes.
I didn't know if you had a comment.
No comment.
Joe, any comments? No? Ready to vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's 5-0. All right, Keith, talk about the water. Go ahead.
The recommendation to the board is to leave the water rates remaining as is. For same thing for the water department revenues. We, 2 billing cycles and forecasting for, the end of the year, fiscal year. We're looking at approximately $6.2 million in revenues. And then our expenses projected for the fiscal year is $5.9 million. With a projected retained earnings of $280,395. So we're asking or recommending that the rates remain the same.
Are there any questions from the board?
Yeah,
ahead,
I have one. We've been provided with some motions here just to make sure we get our language correct, but I also, I noticed that with water, I think the motion that was provided to us might have a typo or might be incorrect. So what I have here is that vote to, it says increase the water rate for fiscal year 24 as follows. I believe that's mistaken. I think it's to keep the water rate as is for 2020, for 2026.
Yes, sorry.
But because of that, I'm not sure if the amounts that are listed might also be wrong. And I don't want to read those if they're mistaken.
This I have.
That should say set the water rates.
Yeah.
Should be fiscal 25.
Where is last year's?
Fiscal 25 water rates. These are 25s.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It should be
Fiscal 25.
fiscal year 25. My mistake, sorry.
So this is for fiscal year 25.
Yeah, you're holding the rate from 25 into 26.
Yeah, okay. no problem.
26.
So we're going to keep the water rate as is going
Yes.
into fiscal 26. The rates that I have is 0 to 2600 is 521. Is that correct?
Correct.
2601 to 5900 is 768.
Correct.
And then anything over 5900 would be $10.64.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I didn't misread these things later, after other people get a chance to speak. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
Ms. Roberts, do you have anything you want to add?
No question, sir. If you
McCrisky?
wanted to take
No.
a moment to define these pictures, the photos that look lovely. No.
Sure.
It's like, what is this actually?
What you're looking at, that is sewer infrastructure. The first picture is showing an existing sewer main. It's all cracked. You can see the cracking at the top. And then the next picture shows the same exact sewer line that's been, it's called cold cured in place pipe. It's the same exact pipe. It's just a liner that's been put into that to basically re-strengthens the pipe, eliminates all the cracks, so holds the integrity of the pipe and prevents any leakage from groundwater coming in.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
Thank you.
Is there any questions from the audience? Ms. Walsh?
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street. What is the senior discount, please?
The senior discount is 15% off.
Just a little bit closer.
The senior discount is 15% off your water portion only, and you have a reduced trash rate, which is also on that bill of $45. It's all in one.
What is the age that you can start getting the discount on the water?
65.
So I'm just reminding folks, because not everybody reads the whole bill. I know it's on the bill, but they just don't read the whole bill. They just see an amount and they pay it. If you are 65 or older, you get a 15% discount on water if you pay on time. If you let it roll over, you lose your discount. Now, where do folks go to apply for the discount, and what do they need to bring with them?
So residents can come either to the Public Works, just bring your license, or if you go to pay your bill at the collector's office at Town Hall, you can also just bring your license there, and they will get it down to the water department. We just need a copy of the license.
What information do they need to bring with them? Some proof that they're 65?
Yep, just their license, that's all.
Okay. I just want to remind folks, because you may recall a couple came in years ago. They wanted a 10-year refund because they hadn't read the bill properly and they'd been paying the whole amount. Part of our responsibility as seniors is to make sure that we read the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience? Anybody online? Okay. What's the wish of the board on the rates for the water? The water.
Mr. Vice Chair, I move
Go ahead,
that in
Steve.
accordance with General Law, Chapter 41, Section 69B, Article C3-3H of the Town Charter, Chapter 188-4 of the Town Bylaws, and any other applicable authority, the board acting as water commissioners of the town vote to keep the water rates as is for fiscal year '26. And that is for 0 to 2,600 cubic feet per quarter, a rate of $5.21, from 2,601 to 5,900 cubic feet per quarter, a rate of $7.68, and anything over 5,900 cubic feet per quarter, a rate of $10.64, and that all other fees and charges remain the same.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're all set.
Thank you.
I would actually just like to add.
Thank you, great work.
Yeah, this was really fabulous work, and I'd like to thank all the members of the Water and Sewer Department as well as town manager, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people involved. I know last year was a difficult year where we had to make a lot of changes, but it's very rewarding to see that the those very difficult decisions that everybody was a part of have really paid off in the current year, and I think it wouldn't have been possible without your administration and that. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Keith and Karen.
Good night.
Okay. So we're going to be passing this gavel back and forth a couple times tonight. But it's good to have it close at hand just in case. You never know. The next item on the agenda is interview and consideration of appointment of town clerk. Votes may be taken. And we have Rogeria Medeiros Qualls-Jakowski. I've been practicing your last name all day, by the way. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us this evening. We will just go around the horn and ask a couple questions, and then we'll probably move on to deliberation. But I want to give you a chance before we get started with any questions, if you want to make an opening statement, if there's anything you'd like to say before we begin. Thank you. No problem at all. So we will start with Mr. Gito. No questions. Ms. Roberts?
No questions.
No questions. Okay, Vice Chair Carrera.
The only question I have is, it's not to you, it's to the town manager. It says that the petition was advertised and we had no qualified applicants. Now, does that mean there was a decision made or was there nobody put in?
Thank you for the question, Scott. There is a summary in your package, and this is item number 6. Thank you. In your package, it explains, it was written by our Director of HR, Deanna, as to what was done in this search. And it explains that it was a fairly long search compared to others we've had to do. I think it was close to 3 months. Let me just put my hands on it, if you don't mind. Actually, I can remember it. We had several applicants, upwards of 40 applicants. None of them at that time, as we advertised in the MMA and advertised in the Massachusetts Town Clerk's website. Thank you, Gilda. None of them met any of the criteria. In fact, there were people from Walmart that were clerks that applied for the job. They thought it was that type of position. So it was re-advertised in a broader scope on 10/7 on October 7th for 1 month, 1 30-day month. The New England Clerks generated no qualified applicants. The Mass Clerks Association, no qualified. And the MMA, 1 qualified application, and the resume was received from a gentleman on 10/10/24. So out of the 3-month process, excuse me, not 3 months, a little over a month process, we got 1 qualified external applicant. And then that gentleman, as described in the handout, didn't show up for his interview. Was interested, decided not to show up. We tracked him down. He said he was withdrawing his application. The only internal candidate was the candidate before you, who is a Massachusetts licensed clerk for over 10 years now. But other than that, it was a difficult time because of election year, because people don't want to move. The clerk's position has become highly complex by the rules cast on them by the legislature, and people are very uncertain about whether they want to be clerks or whether they plan to leave their current situation. So I wish Deanna was here. She's out sick. She could talk about the search that she did. It was pretty extensive. We actually also did some recruitment calls to neighboring towns to see if we could entice them after we increased the salary. And even then, they had no interest in leaving their town, or in some cases, expressed a reservation about even continuing on as a town clerk as the demands of the job become more and more complex. So I hope you have that handout. I think that is pretty close to what I described. It's a good question.
Then I read the job description, this part here that said education and experience, what's recommended. It says a bachelor's degree or at 5 years experience as an assistant town clerk or a town clerk. And then Ms. Kowalskowski's resume, which is only 1 date in the whole resume, and it was tough to follow because when we picked a town accountant and you supplied that information, I'll use a name, Elizabeth Zielinski's was impeccable, and that's what I expect to read, so I can see what was out there, what we're getting, and I know it has nothing to do with the person. It has to do with what is best for the town. Are we getting the best bang for our buck, or what? But I'm just using Elizabeth's because we had 3 in front of us. We saw no other applicants, no other stuff. Humor me and just give it to me so I can just, yeah, this was ridiculous. This is it.
Sure.
But when you supplied the proper stuff in Elizabeth's shined. You couldn't take it away from them. There was no way you would pick anybody else
Right.
after reading that. And that's just how I feel.
Right. So I would say to that we had not a single applicant, and seldom do we have applicants that meet all the criteria in the job description. That's why you oftentimes see the language that says, or equivalent experience. So we had no applicants other than one external and one internal that were certified clerks. Other than that, and that was the most important piece of paper we were looking for. We would not have hired anybody that was not a certified Massachusetts clerk. In terms of a college degree, it's a lesser requirement. In this day and age, people are looking for skills and certification as opposed to a general college degree.
That's what I'm looking at in the next line down that says 5 years experience in a clerk's office. There isn't that here. There's 6 months.
Right.
And if that's the bar we're going to set, then I have to live by it. But I wish there was more, because it's our appointment.
Sure.
Your job search that Joe did and Steve did,
Sure.
laid it all out. There was no question of which way I was going to go. The same thing when you had the interviews with the other people,
Right.
and you put the paperwork on the table. I don't know if there's a rush to do this, but I would like to see it go back out so that we can see what happens, but that's only me. But if the board goes the other way, then that's the way it's going to be.
Sure.
It seems that there should be a little more interest. There should have been a lot more put out. Where was the EOC on this? Deborah was a big leader, and the last time the clerk was picked, it was pushed, and this was pretty quiet.
Well, I guess, as I said in my introduction, we did both an internal search, an external search, and a recruitment process where we reached out to clerks. The candidate before you didn't decide until 3 weeks ago when she applied, formally applied and submitted an application that she was even interested in the job. If these were normal times, I would have hoped and expected, and you're right, Scott, that we would have had 3-4 candidates for your consideration.
What I thought was if we didn't get anything that was good, I would have thought that HR would have said to you, can you go to the board, see what they want to do? Maybe we would have had to get a headhunter involved the way it was the last time.
Well, we did get a candidate who's good, and we're presenting her to you this evening. She's got 35 years experience, institutional knowledge in this town, 10 years as a licensed certified clerk, and 6 months firsthand experience doing a presidential election, sustaining a surprise audit from the Secretary of State's office, doing a town election, and without a single problem or mistake. So it's almost like the Patriots search for a new head coach. If they're considering Mike Vrabel's got coaching experience, and we know him well. He played for us. He's a part of the Patriots family. He's a Patriots Hall of Famer. So I would ask that all the members keep a very open mind as they interview this candidate. It's someone we all know. It's somebody who has done yeoman's work in the absence of a full-time person. She served as a noble interim. And you can, I think at least we should go through a fair process, an investigation, and make a decision. I don't have a vote, nor should I, per the charter. But I've had the pleasure of working with this person for 2.5 years. I've never dealt with a more organized, hardworking, dedicated employee than we have in this 35-year employee. So I just ask that the members give a fair and open interview and keep an open mind, and then make a decision that you think is prudent. That's all. And I know everybody is willing to do that.
Of course, yeah.
I'm all set.
You're good to go? Okay, perfect. Mr. McCrisky?
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Reggie, how you doing? Got 2 questions, and I did want to make a point, Scott, when you had mentioned, the 2 processes that we underwent in a couple other positions. The difference with those positions that we advertised then is that we had applicants. We had applicants. We had 12 applicants for town manager, and we're lucky enough to get it down to Tom. The same thing with Biz. We had applicants, and in this case, we didn't have anybody that's applied, that's qualified. The one that did, didn't show up for the appointment. So, but I just got two questions, Reggie. In your time here, 6 months, give me your assessment. What are the high points? What were you dealing with here? And how did you, any of the challenges you had? Just give me an idea of what you've seen in your part-time term here. Take the residents through a little tour.
You said to press the button on the front.
Yeah, press the button, make sure it's green.
There we go.
Take the residents on a little tour of your 6 months.
So I'd say the biggest challenge was the elections, running into a big election season. Secretary of State's office had some concerns with the town of Stoughton. I worked with them very closely, followed their guidelines and all their protocol, and I think what ended up happening for Stoughton was a very successful 2 elections in the course of 90 days. So that was a big challenge for the office, but it was a big win. So we did a great job there. We've streamlined a lot of processes. We have upgraded our software. We were working with software licensing the dogs that is registering 27-year-old dogs, which we know no longer exist. So we're in the process of upgrading that system. That's worked well, and we've been able to weed out a lot of dogs that are no longer in existence, and trying to assist in not generating out letters to residents of dogs that are no longer in town. So the other thing is we have a conflict of interest training coming up in January. That's something that the office is really focusing on, is trying to get the residents. There's a lot of new people involved in town government, trying to get everyone on board, know what the rules are. So we have the conflict of interest, and I'm hoping to have a campaign finance one shortly. The other things would be the vitals. We've streamlined that process. I've gotten the staff trained. It used to be a 4-step process to get a vital record in town, and with the staff that's currently now trained, we've streamlined that down to a 1-step process. So we've saved a lot of time. The staff's very happy because that 4-step process was, a little bit overwhelming, and now we're down to a 1-step process. And we continue to just try to improve for our residents. We're looking to upgrade our town clerk's webpage. It's not very user-friendly, but we were focusing on the election, so we really haven't really dived into that project, but I expect to do that next couple of months. And another thing that we were challenged with is there's a lot of records that are currently stored in the basement that are not preserved, so they are not in a room that is fire resistant, water resistant. We had some water damage a couple of years ago. We did lose some records, so we're in the process of working with a vendor to make the best use of our vault system so that we can store all our records in there. Similar to Sharon recently did theirs over, as well as Carver, so we're kind of following what they did and trying to improve that. So that's kind of it. There's a few other things that we're working on, but I feel that's pretty accomplished in 90-day cycle. During an election, we basically focused on the elections, but we started working on these other things after the election. So,
all right, one last one. The audit. You went through an audit after the election. I've never heard of that before, but tell me about, what did that consist of?
So that consisted of hand counting all our ballots. We were able to do that with our current staff. I didn't utilize any other clerks from other towns. I know in the past we've done that, but the staff is very, very good at what they do. So we actually did that audit twice, because the first time the numbers came off, they were off by 2. So I decided to run the audit again, and the good news is it concluded the same results. Secretary of State's office was very happy with the outcome. Anything under 5 is good for them. So So we did really good job with that. A lot of seasoned clerks were very nervous about getting picked. So of course, when I got picked, I was extremely nervous, but we came out on top and we did a great job with that, and we're ready for the next one if they decide they want to choose us again.
Like I said, I've never heard of them before, and I know there's audits. I mean, I do audits as part of my job with the state. But what is the criteria to be chosen for that? Is it random? Does your number come up in a bingo ball, or is it?
They said some towns are random, and then some towns are just put into the mix. And I don't know where we fell on that, but we were chosen.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I have a couple questions. Are you finished now, Mr. McCrisky? Yes. Thank you. Excellent. So thank you for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
The questions I ask are never mystery. I kind of ask the same ones every time, but they're ones that are near and dear to my heart. So the question I usually ask is about failure, and to the extent that all of us, at some point, if you've lived long enough, you inevitably have a good example of where you failed, and I'd like to hear your general thoughts on that. And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm really just looking to see your thoughts on failure, maybe some examples, the things you did to fix it, or maybe there was times when you didn't do anything to fix it. I don't want to presume what your stories are, but when you think about failure, what comes to mind?
So that's a great question. Probably, I'd say one of my biggest failures was about 3 years ago when I was before this board, probably different members at the time. And I thought I did a pretty good interview for this position that I've applied for again this 3 years later, and I failed. So with that failure, I was really hurt. I was saddened. I was upset. And I had some choices to make. So my choices were, do I stay and continue on with my career with the town of Stoughton, or do I pursue what I really want to do and what I'm certified to do, which is a municipal town clerk? So I took some time. I, licked my wounds, and I decided this is where I started my municipal career, actually in the clerk's office. It's really where I wanted to end my municipal career. I continued on with my certification. I made sure I kept up with the certification. I've actually started the Master Municipal Clerk certification, which is 100 credit hours to get an MMC designation, and I am at 77 hours, so I'm about 23 hours away from that next designation. So I decided that it's what I want to do. I love the town of Stoughton. It's been very good to me. I've made a lot of relationships here. And so I decided I'm just going to learn from this experience. It was a growth experience for me. And I decided to just stay and dealt with that failure. And I think it made me a better person, gave me more character, and really put me in a good place.
I appreciate it. So everyone has had an opportunity to ask questions. If anybody does have any further questions, I want to give them the opportunity to ask those. If seeing none, sorry, no means.
Mr. Chairman, you gave us the opportunity to ask questions, and this was the second go-round. I took a tour of the clerk's office, and I really I have a better understanding of what the tasks are and how complicated they are at this point in time. So I really don't have any questions for the candidate, the potential candidate in this case, but I do have questions for us to consider and for town manager. So I'm waiting for an opportunity to talk amongst ourselves.
Sure. So I think that the process for this, the process I would like to follow is that if there is a nomination, now's the time to make it. There doesn't have to be a second. Once a nomination is made, we can deliberate on that nomination. But until there's a nominee, there's nothing to discuss. Mr. McCrisky.
With that being said, Mr. Chairman, I do nominate Ms. Reggie Kwolzakowski to serve as our next town clerk.
Okay,
And I second that.
perfect. Okay, so this is deliberation time. I will, well, just again, say thank you very much. Are there any statements that you'd like to make, or you feel comfortable with the interview so far?
No, I just want to thank the board. I want to thank the town manager for giving me this opportunity to serve, and that's about it. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. So because, Ms. Roberts, you said you actually had some very specific questions, I'll just start with you.
So diversity, equity, and inclusion is very important to me, and that's equality for all. But by the same token, employee retention and employee growth is very important as well. So with that said, either last select board meeting or the prior select board meeting, Mr. Coulter mentioned that there were several employees, including himself, that will be retiring soon. He mentioned our candidate. So when I think about retention, what is our contingency plan, and specific to this role, if someone is going to retire within the next couple of years? So that's the first question. I'm very concerned with that, and
Sure.
so I just need some clarification.
My primary concern is for, I won't mention the names, our HR director, our finance manager, myself, and a half a dozen others are going to retire in the next 3 to 5 years. We're not so much worried about the 5-year portion as much as we are a 3-year portion. And Mark and I speak all the time, and it's part of our presentation, the FinCom as well, with succession plans. I've asked this candidate how long she would commit to, and she has told us that she will not retire for at least 4 years, and most likely longer if she enjoys it as much as she enjoys it now. So I'm not worried about a succession plan in this department, but now that you ask, we do have one. We've selected Susie as the assistant town clerk, and she is learning very quickly. She has started in the certification program. She's got 10 to 15 years left. And so Reggie has proven in this office to be an extraordinary trainer, and that process of training will begin almost day one for all important, critical, public-facing departments. We're doing the same thing in the assessing department. We're doing the same thing in the human resource department. We're planning for and training the next people for anyone 2 to 3 years out. Biz is training Anne Marie to take over her spot. For the clerk's office, if you choose this candidate, she's committed to no less and probably more than 4 years. So I'm not as concerned, because we do have a highly competent staff in place, one of whom is willing to do the hard work to become certified. So I think we're in great shape in that office.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coulter, and through you, Mr. Chairman. My second question is regarding salary. So for the current candidate that's in front of us, the years of service dictate a very high salary. And with that, I understand that the tasks involved are very complicated, but is the complication of the task equal to the years of service that this candidate has had for years of service in the town, serving the town of Stoughton? I can't reconcile that.
So we've had to deal with that. I have not been instructed by the board to negotiate a contract yet, but I have had discussions with the candidate with regard to salary requirements. We advertised this, as you know, at the end at $115,000 starting base salary. Got no other applicants, but this candidate's agreed to take that base salary, which was advertised, if we would honor the benefits she has earned as part of a member of a union for 35 years. So that's the only hiccup, is if we'll honor the union benefits, which is earned time and the like, then the candidate, as well as longevity, the candidate would accept the salary that we posted in the job search. Other than that, I didn't go any further because I didn't think it was appropriate.
Yeah, I think
Are we gonna discuss this stuff later?
Yes,
I think it's appropriate. I mean,
Yeah.
we can.
sort of have to do step one before we get to step three. So I
I
think,
was just answering the question.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Respectfully, I understand, and
Yeah.
I'll wait, but that helps me to make my decision of how I will vote, like, because it was not unsettling, but it was a big, big question mark for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm glad you asked it, but I would like to stay. There's things that we really would discuss in an executive session. I want to make sure that we don't do them here. Yes, sir.
Through you to the town manager. This is a non-union job. You can't intertwine those, otherwise we get a bargain with the superior union spayer. And if you're here for the job, you're here for the job. Other people have taken it prior to the previous clerk and to that one. They were not in unions. And that was the claim. You can't have both ends of the cake. You can get the slice, but you're not going to get both ends. That was going to be something I was going to bring up, that you go that way, the promise of the 4 years becomes the 3-year walk-away at the high five.
These are really topics that we need to discuss
the
in executive
Supermax
session.
union thing. They go out and they take the 3 and go.
That's happened
I think we need to.
times around here.
I think we need to move on, guys.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay, this is an executive session
I'm just
conversation.
trying to get what.
Fair enough. And there's a time and a place, and
We'll discuss it later.
we absolutely will in an executive session. That's where this goes. Okay. So, any other further questions?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm all set for right now. Thanks.
Anybody else have any comments, questions, concerns? We have a nomination, so to the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
One abstention. Mr. Gito, you say you affirmative?
I will vote in favor. I'm concerned with only having one candidate. I will. I will vote in favor. I'm concerned with only having one candidate. But
Thank you very much.
here we are.
So the vote is 4 yes, 0 no, 1 abstention.
Mr. Chairman? Before you take the vote, may I make a comment about the one candidate? It's just to clarify the record.
So we already voted, but you're welcome to make a comment.
The comment is simply that this candidate was not interested in the job when we advertised it. And it was only after we got little interest in a clerk coming to Stoughton that she was convinced that it's a good career opportunity for her. I wish we had 5 applicants. This candidate asked to do a full search before it was offered to her. So I don't want anybody to think or suggest, and nobody has, and I appreciate that this was a bag job. I don't want anybody to think that, to say it, or to even suspect it. We would have done this 3 months ago if this candidate were interested at that time. A condition of her being interested was to first have us conduct a full search so that nobody could make that claim. I really wish 6 months into it we could have had multiple candidates. They're not out there. They're just not out there. Or they're just not interested in Stoughton. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Chairman, point of personal privilege.
Of course.
The idea that my comment would engender any thought that I thought that this was a bag job is not true. And it is
Mr.
a
Gito, I
very
apologize.
poor set of words, I think, to use in response.
Mr. Gito, I
And
apologize.
I am offended.
Sir, I didn't mean it toward you, so I apologize.
You did.
It wasn't geared towards you, sir. It has been suggested by some in the community on Facebook and in emails to me and in emails to this board. So I just wanted to set the record for the public. No offense was taken towards you, sir. I apologize.
I am not on Facebook.
So you wouldn't have seen it.
Okay, so
And
the
I
next,
had no thought of that.
I appreciate that.
And I want to be very, very clear. And I am not appreciative of that comment.
Thank you.
Let me be clear.
Okay, so the next order of business, by the way, congratulations. Thank you very much. Our next order of business is to work out a contract, work out negotiation of this. Thank you so much.
Oh, you did.
I'll register my own opinion, which is that, I believe that delegating this to the town manager and our town council through the negotiations would probably be a pretty efficient use of time and energy, but I will entertain any motions that people have and how we negotiate a contract.
What do you think? Do you want comments now or later? Changes. I'm not just going to give a non-union thing up and blanket it with
Just
union.
have the mic on.
No, mine's off.
Yeah, so
Can you repeat that question, Mr. Chairman?
So we need to go through, first of all, any contract will be voted by the select board.
Yes.
But who works out the, sort of the data, the
I think we
negotiations of it? We're going to need to have some requirements. We'll have to work with the town manager, but unless people have time and energy to do it, then delegating that to our town council and also to the town manager might make sense. That was just my suggestion, but I will
think
leave it
we
up to
should
the
have-
board to make a recommendation. Somebody actually has to sit on the opposite side of the table and negotiate a contract. And the question is, who does that?
I have
I think we
ideas,
should-
but my
I think
hand
we
was
should
up
sit
third
the
in
room
line.
And discuss it amongst ourselves, and if Brian Wynn is there, like we do all of them, then why can't we do that? Tom will be there.
Perfectly fine with that. So we'll have an executive
Then we
session.
walk out, and it's all settled in one time. Nobody's questions, oh, Tom, you going to get that to us? Or did you sit with Brian? Was there a day? You know, let's just set a day, do it, and get it out of the way.
Mr. McCrisky.
We've been consistent in putting a subcommittee together, as we did when we hired the town manager, to come up with a draft of an agreement. And I'd rather continue that process like we've done it in the past. If we sit in as 5 people, we'll be there till 2 o'clock in the morning or the next day. You know, and like it was said earlier, come to us with options. And that's what I believe, 2 members of the board working with the town manager to come up with that agreement. Then we go in with Brian Winter. I'm all in favor of all that, and we discuss it. And we look at the pros and cons. But let's face it, folks, we all know how we are as a group when we get on these things, and it just takes forever. So I would rather go with that it be the chair and one other person. And I would be willing to do that because I've done it with the chair in the past, with the town manager, and come back with something that we can deliver to the board that's a good start for a conversation.
Okay.
So I'd put that in the form of a motion.
I was third in line to have a recommendation,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, which I somewhat agree with what Mr. Carrera said and what Mr. McCrisky said, but my approach is different. Our typical process is to allow the town manager to start the negotiation by using a standard template or an existing template, and then come back to us, and we always redline things and make our comments and our edits. And I don't think we should overly complicate it. I think as we have done it from time and time again with various positions, we've gotten better doing it and more efficient. But we always, select board members always have the final say.
Yeah.
There's a job description to go by, so that's very easy for Tom to, bring it out and say, and then like Deborah says, we'll sit and do like we do, and then Brian takes it from there.
So the way we're going to proceed is in our next meeting, we'll have an executive session to discuss that. That'll be next Tuesday. During that time period, I would hope that the members of the select board assemble any requirements that they have, anything that they want to see in that contract, anything they don't want to see in that contract. We'll compile those things, and then we'll decide how we move forward in that executive session, who negotiates that contract, and how we work through finalizing it. So at our next meeting, we'll discuss this in executive session. Is that fair?
That's
Thank
fair,
you.
because it'll address protection of the applicant and the town.
Perfect. So, yep, write up any contractual obligations or anything you want to see in the contract. And I said, anything you don't want to see, just give us your requirements, and we'll have to see if we can find alignment internally, and then we can send either all of us off, some of us off, or just the town manager or just town council to present that. But we'll work that out in executive session. So the next item that we have on the agenda is the fiscal 23, sorry, I wish, fiscal 26 budget and capital questions from the board. So we have 2 more meetings before we have to transmit the budget to the Finance Committee. So we have next week and the following week, that will be the last meeting that we have available to us. We got the budget at our last meeting, December 17th. What I'm asking for tonight, because we do have a lot to cover, and I don't want to discuss changes until I feel confident that everybody has had all their questions answered. So I'd like to really focus tonight on any questions people have regarding the budget, and then at our next meeting, once everyone feels comfortable with it, they understand it, and they understand the changes, understand what's being presented and how it's being presented. At our next meeting, we'll start discussing any changes that people want to make. But for right now, we're going to stick to questions that people have about the budget as it was presented. So we can go around the bend, but also I can just ask, does anybody have any questions? Mr. Cheeto, do you want to take the first round?
I spoke yesterday afternoon with the town manager and Mr. Tisdale, and gave some rudimentary suggestions on what I thought. But I have, as I explained to them, I'm sort of improving a little bit from where I was a couple weeks ago, and I expect to get some additional information over the course of the next couple days, and we'll be prepared to discuss more next week. My only concern in a quick look at just the capital expenses is the second ladder truck. But I have other things that they well know about, so I'll just go from there.
Thank you very much. Ms. Roberts, do you have any questions about the budget as it was presented on December 17th?
Yes, it's not about the numbers per se, but it's about the outlook as a whole, your vision just for this one fiscal year, because we do, I believe it's quarterly, receive the department head report, and and I paid special attention to the most recent one, which was dated January 1, 2025 to March 31, 2025, and is based on what they say. Sometimes I can't map to the exact number. So can you just explain your vision for this year? What do you really see is going to be impactful?
Thank you, Deborah. I see the coming year as, from a budget perspective, I characterize it as a fairly fiscally conservative plan. We've got just under 3.7% budget increase, which is among one of the lowest we've had in many, many years. We've got fewer full-time employees in fiscal 25 than we've had than the previous fiscal year. We will be using no free cash to balance the budget. A 7-year plan that the staff has been able to pull off in 2 years. We've got no structural deficits in any of the accounts, including the enterprise accounts. We're looking to generate sufficient free cash so as to allow us to minimize debt service. Debt service has grown significantly in the past several years, primarily due to the infrastructure improvements in water and sewer, which is very necessary moving forward as well. But we're looking to generate more free cash through the process of cleaning up our balance sheet. With each of the 300 entries needed to implement the sunset provision the town meeting voted, it generates cash. By generating cash, we're hoping we can minimize debt. Because debt for smaller items, not for large construction projects, but for vehicles, fire trucks, and the like, is at a much higher interest rate than large construction projects. So our objective is to run a conservative shop and to generate free cash that allows us to pay for those assets with money we've saved from operations. Remember, free cash is surplus revenue generated by the municipal government. So for every position we can combine and have 2 jobs done by what used to be 2 people is now done by 1 person, the savings is not only in the salary, the savings is in sick days, holidays, vacation days, OPEB obligations, and $22,000 a year for a family health insurance plan. So we know that 75% of our budget is labor. So our primary focus last year and this year is on doing more with less. The other thing we're doing is by hiring in the last 8 months, a highly professional and extremely experienced finance team. We're doing more forensic auditing than has ever been done in this town, going back decades to fix entries that were miscast. And again, all of those entries generate cash. They're not liabilities, they're assets. So it's worth the work. But in order to do that, we had to hire a highly competent finance manager that is in fact an instructor. Then we hired a town accountant who is in fact just recently been certified as an instructor. And the third person was the town accountant for Holbrook. So with that 3-person staff, we can and we are doing things that'll position the town from a finance standpoint for decades to come. Last point, it's been said, and I'm not attributing it to anybody, it's been said online and by certain individuals that we have no guardrails. I can go into that corner office right now, business office, and take out a 5-inch book that's published by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue that provides the most solid guidelines a municipality must follow for risk of indictment. There is not a single one of the 351 cities and towns that make up their own policies and rules with regard to fiscal management. The state does that for us. And that document is used several times a day by Biz, her staff, Mark, and myself to give us guidance as to what we can and cannot do. That's becoming a real cultural asset to our community and to this staff. People know where to get the answer, right down to chapter and verse of Mass General Law. And so when it is suggested that there's no guardrails, I sit there patiently listening to it. And I don't know that the individuals who say that are familiar with who we answer to. We answer to DOR. We don't answer to the Mass Association of Finance Committee members. We don't answer to the Mass Municipal Association. We don't answer to the Collins Center. We answer to the Massachusetts DOR, and that book provides us guidance. So how would I characterize this year? It's a year of organization. It's a year of fiscal conservatism. It's a year of cash management, and it's a year of debt management. And I think we now have the strongest group of department heads I've ever had the honor of working with. And so I look at this as a great year to pivot towards the future. Financially, we are in the best financial shape we have been in decades. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the team for putting us in that position. Thank you for that question, Madam.
Thank you very much. And through you, Mr. Chairman, one additional question, and this is a piggyback off of my original question. And I must say these terms loosely just for the audience. And this is regarding the sunset of various projects. So this is quote unquote newfound money, that we may have available. And residents some are saying that they want to hold their taxes stable. So if you could answer that question, and while you're answering that question, can you address the vacancies? So over and over again, we talk about how it's hard to recruit people to fill the vacancies in the town of Stoughton. When you look at some of the department head reports, they also talk about they've had some open positions for, I'll use the word significant period of time. So that is money we're holding, and I say it's pending or holding in limbo, but we're trying to fill the positions to take some of the task, the burden off of an individual staff person. But if we can't fill those positions, those dollars are still being held just in case. So we start with that. That is, my question is wrapped up into, we have newfound money. We have money that's tied up into positions that we're unlikely to fill, or we may not be able to fill, those kind of things. And when residents such as myself see those questions, we have to ask, like, well, what is the plan?
Sure.
What is the tactical plan, not the strategic, which is long-term? What is the tactical plan, the 1 to 3 years? That may help us to better understand. Thank you very much.
It's another question I really appreciate to put some things in perspective. From one of the public comments today about taxes going up, this board voted a tax rate that was a decrease over the previous year. So the taxes are not going up because of operations. If the taxes have gone up, it's because of real estate values and assessments. I think it's very important to make that point. We don't control the real estate market. What you control as the tax setting authority, along with the assessors, is the tax rate. And the tax rate, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so don't quote me. I believe that 3 out of the past 5 years has gone down, as set by this board. So to that point. To the second point about surplus cash. Surplus cash goes to this mislabeled account called free cash. Free cash can only be spent as authorized by town meeting. So the very suggestion by a certain vice chairman of a finance committee that it evaporates into midair, it can only be voted on by the town meeting representatives can only be approved. We can't spend 10 cents of free cash without a hearing before this esteemed board, before the Finance Committee, and by an affirmative vote of town meeting members. So to that point, I just want to reiterate that when we can generate free cash and buy equipment in cash as opposed to higher interest rates, Scotty buys equipment all the time. You know what a 8-year loan cost. It's twice what it would cost to build your home, that interest rate. So the more free cash we can save in operations and put back into the town meeting representatives' hands to decide if it's a prudent move, the better. And the way we do that is by consolidating roles under a single manager that used to take 2 staff people, and now it takes 1 staff person. That's the tactical short-term measure that we've been using for almost 2 years now, is reduce labor by consolidating jobs and putting the 2 jobs under 1 person. And in many cases, those people are begging for that extra work because they weren't challenged. To your third point about the sunset clause, it has been the best and the worst of times with respect to the sunset clause. I commend Mr. Murphy for never letting go of it, because it has proven to be the right thing to do. The problem is it's like a full-time job for 2 people. So we had 130 articles that we need to get through to close out. Biz in particular has worked over 400 hours in the past 6 months to get through them. It requires forensic accounting. Some of them go back 20 years. And we're generating a lot of cash because of that. But now we got to get to the second half, which is going to take another 400 hours. And although it's a lot of work, a pain in the neck, actually, it is the impetus for putting our books, the books for the town of Stoughton, in perfect condition. So there's 2 benefits to it. One is it generates a lot of cash, and 2, it puts our books, our balance sheet, into perfect order. We couldn't do it without a 3-person staff of certified accountants. It would have been impossible to do this 2 years ago. Absolutely impossible. The third point I want to make is in terms of salaries, you're going to see probably 8 recommended salaries in this budget that are greater than 5%. And it's either because it's contractual or because we hired somebody at a lower rate with a promise to increase it in the next year. I'm talking about the professional staff. But it's important to remember that inflation has averaged 7% over the last 24 months. And Massachusetts is the 2nd highest state in the country for salaries, because we're among the top 5 most expensive states in the country for cost of living. So, but we're the 2nd highest median income of any state in the country. So as we're recruiting for people, what used to cost us $50,000, if we want to get a competent person, it's $60,000 or $70,000. If we lose a good person because we don't pay that person at market, not only will we get a person to replace him or her with less institutional knowledge, less skill, less commitment to this town, we'll probably pay that new person just to get a person in the seat 10 to 15% more money. That's the state of Massachusetts right now. I don't like it. If I was a business owner, I'd be infuriated. I really would. I'd be frustrated. I am, as your town manager, frustrated. As you know, this board in my contract offered me a substantial raise, and I refused it. I only take the COLA that I'm willing to give others. I think that's what it's all about. But if we're going to recruit people who have no loyalty or history with the town of Stoughton, they don't have the willingness to make that same sacrifice. So we have to pay market rates in order to get people, and we have to pay market rates in order to keep people. So I expect we'll be asked questions about some substantial pay increases, and we're prepared to answer them based upon data and based upon economic realities. We're not saying we like it. We don't. I can tell you we're not paying anybody out of favoritism. We're not. But it's a tough situation for every municipal government. Last point, In the state right now, Mark and I had a conference call with former Secretary Jay Ash a few weeks ago with Biz, and he's been brought in as an advisor on the state budget. They have the same problem. They were losing legislative aides in the State House making $58,000, and they wanted to give them a 3%, and half the aides resigned. If you don't have institutional knowledge in the State House to write bills and to do legislation, you have well, some would argue we already have a dysfunctional legislature, but you have a dysfunctional, that the reps don't know how to do anything. It's the staff that do everything. And they were facing a 50% attrition rate because they could go out and get a similar job at McDonald's and make the same amount of money. So there were 4 questions you asked. I hope I addressed them. That's the short-term strategic and tactic approach to this budget. I'd like to ask Mark if he's got any comments on that.
I think Tom really hit that out of the park pretty well there.
Thank you, Mark.
He's obviously on his A game tonight.
See that? He's trying to be
So, no, I mean, I would like to just mirror what Tom said originally with the finance director. I mean, Biz has been a great add-on to our staff. For years since I've been here, I haven't learned as much about the financial side as I have this year, because she doesn't just tell you something, she explains it to you. And sometimes it takes a while.
Well, because she says no.
I was going to say it a different way, but yes.
A paper girl.
Right, exactly. So, no, it's great. You just got to keep on working with her, and Biz has been a great addition to the team. I mean, if I was sitting in Tom's seat, that's exactly what we needed. The other part, because of the years I've been scarred when I was sitting in Tom's seat, that I thought was impeccable about the budget this year was just the lack of structural deficits. The water, the sewer, the healthcare issues that we had all these years. I remember sitting in the office over there and ready for the budget season, kind of excited for it, actually. And then we get what the departments have, and we get what we have for the revenue estimates, and we're pretty high on the revenue estimates, and we have $4 million that we're trying to find. I'm like, how does this happen? And it's because of what I just said. But because of the courage your board has had and the town manager to fix some of those water, sewer, and healthcare issues we've had, and better planning, we're in a much better shape. So,
thank you, Mark.
I mean, I think those are the 2 major points I'd like to point out.
Thank you very much for that clarification, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm all set.
Thank you. Vice Chair Carrera, do you have any questions?
I would have had some questions, but I finally got a budget I can read. So I'm going to need more time. I mean, I tried, I'm telling you, I tried, but
there's no rush. There's no rush. We got
it was
another
just a
2
little
meetings.
too, it was like too gelatinous. I don't know.
Scott, I got a good, short, very brief story for you that Mark and I experienced. We got an email from a town meeting member who happens to be a senior. And I don't know how she got a version of the budget, but she's got a version of the budget. I don't think we've sent it out yet. She said, Mr. Coulter, Mr. Tisdale, I want to thank you for your fine efforts on this budget. This will be the first of 9 years I've been able to read it. It's nice to be able to make my own conclusions, because she could read it. We did cut down the format. We cut down several columns that no one ever asked any questions for, and there's only 2 people that are responsible for the new structure, and they're Mark and they're Biz. And it was so that we could make print larger. It's so that we didn't complicate matters with data that didn't have an impact on decisions. And thanks to their efforts, he's the organization part of this team. We think we have a product that town meeting members can be really engaged. And I hope you see clearly, there's over 150 footnotes. If something is an increase over 5%, we footnoted why. We went by the standard that a budget should be able to stand on its own without having to answer questions. Now, we'll answer questions for the entire month of February, and that's okay. But a budget should stand on its own and be crystal clear. And so we footnoted everything. And I'm really pleased with the work Mark and the team did.
That's what I said to Mark when he was covering as town manager. I says, just put the stuff at the bottom.
Yep.
They can't fight if the information's there.
Right.
That was what we endeavored to do.
You know, I mean, to pick up on your point, if I may, what most people probably don't, part of the reason why the document looks a little different is it actually comes originally right out of Munis now, which is an improvement from where we used to be. I mean, if you can believe it or not, the departments would do their own spreadsheets, and those spreadsheets, the information in that would be taken from the spreadsheet and then typed again into another spreadsheet. That's a very complicated spreadsheet. Now the departments actually input their budgets into Munis directly. This budget template, Trish working on it with Biz many hours to get the format the way it is, and it comes right out of Munis. So now when we finish this and it's done, we just input the file right back into Munis as opposed to typing each line into Munis. So it's a very efficient process.
What a novel concept, using the software that we've been provided.
Perfect. Do you have any further questions or comments?
Thanks, Scott.
Perfect. Mr. McCrisky, any questions? No questions. I have no questions, but I do. You mentioned the residential tax rate decreasing, and I happened to look it up, and it looks like between 2016 and 2021, so about 6 years, it oscillated a little bit, 14 and a half, 14, 15, something like that. Between 2021 and 2025, it's decreased 15.10, 14.41, 13.55, 12.73, 12.38. It's a steep dive where it was sort of leveling off for a while. So, just for clarification, nobody in this room takes that to mean that people's taxes have decreased. Just the tax rate is very different. It's only part of that calculation. It's tied to your, the full amount is tied to the tax rate times your property values. But that shows, first of all, that property values are increasing significantly, and where we saw that wasn't the case for at least the 5 years prior. So we're seeing a lot of improvement. I know that even the presentation that the assessors gave also showed that though this decrease is a decrease in the tax rate, property values have increased, but the total tax increase is almost flat. For a $500,000 property, it's like a $200 increase to your taxes, practically flat. I mean, it's probably would show up in the rounding, which is a really good sign that we're heading in a very healthy direction. The removal of structural deficits, we knew it was there, and we knew it was a problem. But at the same time, I don't think I appreciated how much it was drowning us. And it wasn't until we got out of it that, we decided to just finally stop kicking the can and just do this thing and do it right. And that is at the recommendation of the town manager to stop messing around with this and not allow those things to sort of slowly strangle us. This budget season, not this one, the last one too, have just been so much more pleasant. I feel like we're actually making progress. We're actually able to think about the things we want to do in the future, where we want to be. We're not just treading water. And maybe not everybody shares that opinion, but I don't see any other way. I think we're in great shape, and we're actually able to think more broadly about what the future holds. We're not just trying to do what we can to try to make ends meet. We've got some really good opportunities ahead. My main concern, and this is not concern with anybody here, but is that the things that got us here, the skills that got us here, might not necessarily be the same skills we need to move to the next level. And so I'm kind of curious as we, not right now, but over the next 6 months to a year, just hear what people think about what should the future hold. Now that we have these, have a stronger footing. How do we want to move forward? And up until now, I'll stop talking in a second, but up until now, my main push was towards economic growth. A sewer down Park Street. We need the money coming in. We need more money. We need more money because we have buckets full of holes. We don't have that anymore. And as much as I still want economic development, maybe that's not as much of the highest priorities. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious to see what people think.
So, Mr. Chairman, first of all, on the budget team, that you stopped in several times to give us your input, and I appreciate it. As smooth as it may have gone, I'm sure you noticed that everybody in that budget team kept their badges outside the door.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of, in fact, to me, with the staff saying, Tom, that's really a stupid idea. And there was a lot of laughter. There was a lot of good food. There was a lot of camaraderie. There was a lot of challenging each other. In fact, a few times you came in, you challenged a bunch of our assumptions, and that's how you come up with a great document. It's not about numbers. It's about tactics. And this team, compared to the team last year, which was most of the same people, had a very different experience because of the experience they had the year before that I had with them. I do want to say, though, that the key to continuing this trajectory, this very healthy trajectory that this town is on, the first one is, with every new person we hire, it's the single most important hire of the year. We will not hire a person that's average. We just won't. Town of Stoughton is not a good place for them to work. They have to come in with experience. They have to come in with an attitude. They have to come in with a very high level of intellectual capacity. They got to be willing to work hard. I'm going to use as an example the person we hired a year ago in procurement. It takes a year to get a procurement certification, and it takes a year to get the first 2 modules in assessing. That individual got both certifications in 3 months on his own time, online. That's the kind of person we want to hire. Now he comes in from 6:30 to 8:30 to help Fran out in procurement, and then goes down for the rest of the day and works in assessing. That's the kind of multi-talented, high-energy, highly motivated professional that's committed to his own professional development that Mark and I are recruiting. If you get on to Mark's floor, there's nobody on that floor that you wouldn't hire in your company, Scott, or in your company, Deborah.
I take the secretary in a heartbeat.
We've heard you've tried.
Leave her alone.
And so it starts with that. The second point is, just because you're hired doesn't mean the training stops. Mark is going back into training this year to be a better town manager. At my advanced point in the career, there's places I need to continue to develop in labor relations, in contract negotiation. I've done a lot of them, but I've made a lot of mistakes. So we're taking classes in that. And so is the whole staff. The third thing is economic development. I took a ride through the logistics park yesterday, and then I called Terry Edwards and asked him if I could meet with him. And I got his viewpoint on the cost of that project for that company. We were hoping to get $4 to $6 million in new revenue out of that. That's a fraction of what they're expecting from us. That's a $200 million building. $200 million building. Multiply that per 1,000 by the tax rate. So due to Joe's efforts and Scott's efforts and Deborah's efforts, we're expanding our VNA under Deborah to other towns, regionalizing. That's what's bringing that from a structural deficit VNA to a for-profit VNA. It's those types of things. You can never let the grass grow under your feet. Bob D., who owned a business here in Stoughton called Jetline many years ago, was one of the original Boston Patriots. And he was my godfather. And he, the last time I saw him, he died very young at 55 years old. The last day I saw him was in 1978, and I was walking out of the building to go back up to college. And I looked at Bob's portrait on the wall, and who walked in but Bob? I say, hey, Bobby, I'm heading up to college. I can't believe the way you're growing your company. And he said, as soon as you stop focusing on how to grow it, you will go backwards. Every day, Mark and I meet for coffee, and every day we talk about the next challenge, the next frontier, the new opportunities. And we challenge each other. And that's how we keep this machine rolling. I told town meeting 2.5 years ago, when we were in trouble, they said, where do you see us in 3 years? And if you recall, I said the shining star on the hill. And Stoughton is in incredibly solid financial shape compared to any of our competitors or other 351 towns. I'm sorry, the competitor came out from my private sector experience. And if you walk through the halls of Town Hall or around the town, particularly in the police department right now, you're going to see some of the most inspiring people you've ever met. They love being here. They love doing the job. They're challenged. They're tired, but they're stimulated intellectually. And because of the department heads you've got in this town, we've got in this town, we've got people who are proud of being here and happy to come to work every day. So we got a lot going on. It's all good. It's why we don't respond to the background noise about no guardrails and all that sort of stuff, because anybody who walks into town hall sees a difference. When they study these financials, they'll know the difference. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound like a cheerleader, but we're all pretty excited about it.
No, I'm very excited. And gentlemen, thank you very much for all the work that you've done together. Also, I know Biz has put a tremendous amount of work into this. Between Mark and Biz, they've really created a budget that is going to give. This is going to be a very comfortable experience. There's been years where, not that long ago, where we were sitting here talking about a $2.5 million deficit and how we were going to cover that and who we were going to have to lay off to do it. And so to be, in early January with no use of free cash, no structural deficits, a budget that's lean but also focused on the areas that we have prioritized. You're making our job too easy.
Well, if it weren't for I'm not trying to match platitude for platitude, but if it weren't for this board supporting us in all we do, Lou came in yesterday and Mark and I walked out with 2 new ideas. He does it all the time. He comes in, he speaks his mind, and we're a little bit sharper, a little bit smarter because of that. Scott, Deborah, Joe, you, Mr. Chairman, the same way. Not every management team of the 351 municipalities has bosses that are so constructive. That's where the success is coming from. Now, you mentioned Biz's name, and she's given me permission, so if you'll allow me a personal privilege here. As many of you know, Biz is quite sick. She could be out for several more weeks. She's been out for several weeks. She may not return. She's that sick. So I ask everybody in this room and in the public to please say a prayer for Biz, for her recovery, her return. We won't be the same without her if she can't return. She's a tough lady. She's battling through it, and she plans to return at least part-time status in the next month or so. But she needs our prayers, so I would appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, she'll certainly be in our prayers. Thank you very much. So does anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask for right now? No? Okay. At our next meeting, we'll begin with questions, but then once everyone feels comfortable, we'll move on to any recommendations for changes at our next meeting. Thank you again. Okay. The next area of our meeting, public hearings, we have 3. I'm just going to read through them real quickly, but the first is an application for a common vicular license at St. Philippater Pizza. I probably mispronounced that. I apologize. Doing business as Lucky Pizza, 356 Washington Street. Item B is application for a wine and malt beverage license at Do Brazil Market Incorporated, 22 Porter Street. And item C is an application for a common vicular license, St. Patrick Incorporated, doing business as Brothers New York Pizza at 111 Sharon Street. So I mentioned that earlier on we had a public hearing that for the purposes of the public hearing, Vice Chair Carrera will be the acting chair, so you can direct all of your comments and questions through him. Thank you.
Are the applicants in the room from Lucky Pizza? Come forward. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to read the A public hearing will be held by the Select Board on January 7th, 2025 at 8:30 PM to consider the application for common victual license of St. Pelapier Pizza, Inc., doing business as Lucky Pizza, located at 356 Washington Street, Stoughton, Mass. 02072. The hearing will be conducted at the Great Hall, 3rd floor, Town Hall, 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Mass., and/or virtually and via Google Meets, and may be broadcast and via Stoughton Media Access Television and live stream Google Meets. Video link and telephone connection for the public comment available by calling the Select Board office at 781-341-1300, extension 9212, or email gpereira@stoughtonmass.gov. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
So, second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. State your name for the open the meeting, then I'm going to read some correspondence, and then I'll let you speak and tell us what you want, what you're doing.
Sorry if you...
Grab that mic, just press the button.
Once. All right.
And then pull it close to you, and you'll be good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My name is Sifeni Unan. I'm the future owner for Lucky Pizza.
Could you pull that just a little bit closer?
Yep.
There you go.
My ears.
Okay. My name is Sifane. Okay. So I'm the new owner of Lucky Pizza. I used to have a pizza market in Chatham like 2-3 years ago, and I sell it. And I'm just looking for something for myself. So I have experience how to make food, and I like serve people here in the town with like my food and my recipe. So that's why I'm here today.
Okay. I'm going to read the correspondence that the departments have turned into us. The Stoughton Fire Department, through Assistant Chief Jack Maycomber, has approved it. Through Chief Donna McNamara, she's approved it for the police department. We have correspondence from the Board of Health. And at the bottom, it says that the grease trap has been pumped in August, and it's quarterly pumping that you share with another group.
Yep.
So the next one will be coming up pretty soon, but you have the record here, so it's good.
Okay.
So you're approved by Board of Health. Building and Zoning, Jack Erickson, he has approved it. Karen Brown from the Water Department, there's no outstanding, so it's approved. Teresa Cardozo from the Treasurer's Office, there's no outstanding, and that's approved. The paperwork to be put in the newspaper for the advertisement and the green cards has all been done. We have a workman's comp. He's an employer with 4 employees. That's all in line. Insurance. And we have the application. The application was filled out by Stefan, and the only question I have before you start is, because I wasn't sure, it says you're going to open at 11, right?
Yes.
And then, is it Sunday through Wednesday, you'll close at 9, or is that how it is? Or how do you close that night? Which days?
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we close 9.
Okay.
Friday, Saturday, we close 10.
Okay. Everybody get that? It was a little shaky on the paperwork. The only thing that I'm not going to hold you up on this, but I'm going to, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the town manager. Tom, no more of this,
I agree.
please.
I thought I fixed it, Scott. I will make it clear again.
Because everybody else's is in line with nice, and then this really is,
Couldn't agree more.
but I'm not going to hold it up for that.
I was going to send it back today to have it redone, and it was a bit late.
Okay,
I'll make sure of that.
All right, tell us a little bit about what you're going to do, and then I'll turn it over to the board members, and they'll ask you questions if they have some, all right?
Okay, so I will keep everything as the same as the old owner, and I just have like some new items. I will add it to the new menu, and that's all. So.
Okay. Mr. Gito, do you have any questions? No. Ms. Roberts?
No questions.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Casey?
I've got no questions, but I do want to welcome you to town, and thank you for choosing Stoughton as a place to do business.
Thanks.
Mr. McCrisky?
Don't change anything.
Okay.
It's a great establishment you're taking over.
Thank you so much. All good.
Is there anybody in the audience who has anything to say? John, Mr. Anzavino.
John Anzavino, 25 Ross Ave. Just one question. I noticed on the application, he didn't list any number of women's rooms or men's rooms, but in the plan, it shows restrooms. Is it, I'm not familiar with the establishment. Is it just one room?
I got it written down, too. I was going to ask him.
Just a question, that's all.
Do you have two restrooms, a women and a men's?
We have one bathroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it must be unisex, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody online? Nobody online. Is there a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What's the wish of the board?
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're all set.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Welcome.
Should be a button at the bottom.
I'm just going to read the opening and then turn it over to you.
So just hit the button to turn the light green. That means your mic's on.
There you go.
A public hearing will be held by the Select Board on January 7, 2025 at 8:30 p.m. to consider the application of Do Brasil Inc., located at 22 Porter Street, Stoughton, Mass. 02072, for the application of an all-alcoholic beverage license. The hearing will be conducted at the Great Hall, 3rd floor, Town Hall, 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Mass., and/or virtually and via Google Meets, and may be broadcast via Stoughton Media Access, television, and live stream. Google Meets video link and telephone connection for public comment available by calling Select Board Office at 781-341-1300, extension 9212, or email gpereira@stoughtonmass.gov. Is there a motion to open?
So made.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening, Attorney Jennifer Allen on behalf of Do Brazil Market and Luisa Fernandez. You can introduce yourself.
Luisa Fernandez.
Thank you. I'm just going to read some department info for you, and then we'll get into it. We have from the fire department, it's approved. Stoughton Police has no objection through Chief Donna McNamara. Board of Health is an approval. They have a grease trap that was pumped on 10/14/24. Building, Jack Erickson is an approval there. Treasurer's Office, nothing outstanding. That's an approval. Water Department, nothing outstanding. Anna, and the advertisements and the green cards are out. And we have all the information from, that's been filed to the Alcoholic Beverages Commission. So, go ahead.
Thank you. So Luisa Fernandez is 100% stockholder and the proposed manager for the license. This market and restaurant has been well established in the neighborhood for almost a decade, and Luisa has been serving up delicious Brazilian foods for eat-in and to-go for all of the Stoughton locals. Luisa is looking to accommodate a more dine-in friendly atmosphere and is also looking to expand her menu, adding rotisserie with all types of meat, which she's in the process of doing currently. Due to numerous requests from her customers to have a beer or a glass of wine or drink with their food, this brings Luisa here today. Luisa is a Massachusetts resident and a U.S. citizen, and she is also tip certified. She has a decade of experience owning Do Brazil and familiarized herself with the rules of the ABCC and the Town of Stoughton Licensing Board. Her good character and experience will allow her to operate in a responsible manner and will also ensure the sustainability of the restaurant. Her restaurant and store is permitted as of right within the core Stoughton Center District, including alcoholic beverages service. She is the only store on Porter Street, and granting this license would allow her to effectively compete with several other businesses in the Stoughton Center District that have also been granted such licenses. It would also make beer and wine and liquor available outside of the Washington Street corridor at Porter Street, and she will be able to meet her customer demand with a drink for lunch or dinner when they do come in. And if you have any questions, we're happy to answer any of them.
Joe, do you have anything you'd like to add? No? Deborah?
No questions.
Mr. Gito? Mr. Cavey?
I have no questions. I eat there often. Food is great, and I can't ever go there without having flan. That's why I look like the way I do. It's delicious. The food's excellent, and it's a very unique place. And the fact that there's groceries, but also a buffet, and the food's excellent. There's plenty of room to sit down. And I just thank you for having such a nice little place. Probably 30 feet from the exit from Town Hall.
Mr. Chairman, you say this food makes you short?
Mr. Chairman, did have a quick question.
Go ahead.
How many places do you go out to and eat? Because I'd like to have a nickel for every time you've sat here and says, I eat there often and I love the food. And it's like, I'm going to go on the Steve's tour of Stoughton Dining.
Gourmet of Stoughton.
Exactly. We had Hank Herbawi all those years, and I guess we're going to name the chair. We're going to call it the Chair's Corner. You know, he gets a little special seat in every restaurant in town.
We get gratuities from Randolph because of
You're going to have to get your own website now for Town of Stoughton.
Steve's Gourmet.
This Week with Steve. Today we're going to...
Is there anybody in the audience who would like, Ms. Walsh?
Cynthia Walsh, 1096 Park Street. I haven't been in recently. Is there going to be an increase in the seating? It didn't seem that I think there were 5 tables.
You're going to go to 50, right?
So the capacity is 50, but the table seating is the 24 still.
Okay.
Yes. So.
Does that answer you, Cynthia?
Well, let's say, so there's 6 tables?
How many tables are there, or what is your plan?
Right now, I'm planning to have the 24.
Yeah,
Okay.
staying similar.
Is there going to be a bar, or do you have to have food before you can have alcohol?
No, you have to have food, and all of the alcohol will be held behind, and it will just be served to the customers.
As the chair has said, I enjoyed the food, especially the buffet, and the tres leche cake. I hope you're still going to sell that.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any objections. It's always nice to see a small place become such a community resource.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Is there anybody online that would like to have anything to say? Oh, go ahead, Joe, sorry.
I guess I'm looking, because I heard this, I count, if I'm not mistaken, 2, 4, 6, 8 tables? And how many seating capacity for those 8?
4 for each, so, yeah.
Did I hear a number 50 earlier?
No, that's the maximum.
Yeah.
Maximum?
Max capacity
have a
of the
maximum.
building,
Of the-
like everybody.
Okay, all right, so where would the rest of those people go? If there's 4, there's 32? So that's what you're looking at, 32 for seating?
Just the seating capacity on the
And then
application is
50.
24.
Okay, so what are the 24?
So if other people were coming in to just go shopping or take food to
Okay.
go or buy market,
Is that based on your current numbers or an estimated numbers?
based on the current
Okay,
numbers.
thank you.
Yes,
That's
staying
what I-
all the same.
Right, that's what I needed to
Correct.
know, okay.
Yes, all the numbers are staying the same.
Okay.
Good.
I'll entertain a motion to close.
So made.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
What's the wish of the board?
Motion to approve is presented.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're all set.
Thank you very much. Have a good
Welcome.
night.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Got to fire up. There you are.
Good evening.
Okay. Let me read one thing and then we'll get right in.
Go ahead.
A public hearing will be held by the Select Board on January 7th, 2025, 8:30 PM to consider the application for common victual license of St. Patrick, Inc., doing business as Brothers New York Pizza, located at 111 Sharon Street, Stoughton, Mass. 02072. The hearing will be conducted at the Great Hall, 3rd floor, Town Hall, 10 Pearl Street, Stoughton, Mass. In virtually via Google Meets and may be broadcast via Stoughton Media Access Television and live stream. Google Meets video link and telephone connection for the public comment available by calling the Select Board office at 781-341-1300 extension 9212 or email gpereira@stoughtonmass.gov. Motion to open, please.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Give us your name and say a little something, then I'll read the department head stuff that gives your approvals.
Hi, my name is Sarwar Aziz. I'm 50% shareholder of...
Pull that a little closer to yourself there.
My name is Sarwar Aziz. I'm 50% shareholder of St. Patrick, Inc. We'll be operating 111 Sharon Street. And that's what I got. Unless you have questions for me.
Nope, hang on. I'm going to read your...
The other brother is here in spirit. He was here earlier. He had to go prep some stuff in the store for tomorrow's operation, so...
We have a very nicely done floor plan. We have approval from the Stoughton Fire Department, Assistant Chief Jack Maycomber. Chief Donna McNamara has given an okay. Larry Perry, who is the Board of Health agent, has given approval, and the comment is that the food establishment doesn't meet the criteria for having an exterior grease trap. He's under a different class.
It's on a waiver because there's a presumption that it's not connected to the grease tank that was previously in Papagino's, but that's something we'll look into down the road.
Thank you. Jack Erickson from the Building Department has approval. Treasurer's Department has no objections. In the Water Department, nothing outstanding. All the advertisements and green cards are all set. Also, the insurance is workman's comp is okay, and the floor plan was perfect. Does the board have any questions? Mr. Gito? Mr. McCrisky? Steve?
No questions.
All right.
Deborah's not here. So is it going to be basically the same as before?
Nico's? No, we have our own recipes that we've brought in. It is still New York style pizza, but we have our own sauce that we're bringing in.
Is that the big slices?
Yeah, we have the big slices there. So that's my brother takes care of the operations there. So I can try to answer questions as much as I can, but don't know.
I don't.
You gotta come down. You gotta come down and try it. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to it. I've been to the store before. The hours were a little bit. For some reason, every time I went, they weren't open.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. I grew up in New York, so any sort of New York style pizza, I'm telling you, I'm going to be very.
Do you fold it?
Yeah. If it gets sloppy, it's okay to just take the front.
It's all
sort of
about the
tuck it
flop.
inside the envelope. But as I recall, the slices are gigantic, which is a great New York trend. I see it all the time.
Try to make it as big as possible.
And though I haven't had it, there were a lot of people who came in praising the grandmother's pizza. I don't know if you're doing that. It's like a sheet pizza.
The Sicilian square.
Was that?
The Sicilian square?
Yeah.
The larger pizza, yeah. So we do, that kind of serves the party of 3-4 football night. It's kind of what it's geared to as the playoff season comes up this week, so.
Yeah, one of those big slices can feed like 3 people. They're huge.
Yeah. What's that? Oh. Can't wait for it. I'll let him know. We'll look forward to seeing you there and serving you. Looking forward to be part of the whole community. We've owned previously other pizza places, but not around here. Down Attleboro, Swansea, and a couple other locations. But we plan to be here for the long haul and stay consistent with our hours and be open to serve the community.
Awesome.
Appreciate your time, and it's 9:30. You guys kind of want to run home, so I'll keep it short and sweet.
Is there any questions from the audience, the public? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close.
Second.
I have a motion from Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What's the wish of the board?
Motion to approve is submitted.
I have an approval. Is there a second? And I have a second from Mr. Gito. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're all set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Good luck, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Oh, sorry. I'm all done.
do you have a
Well done. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
website where you evaluate all of the restaurants in Stoughton that you go to?
Hey, you used to do that little 15-minute after the meeting. You could do the same thing, a little YouTube video, the chairman's comments.
I think you need a snack show.
See if you can figure out my Yelp handle. That's.
Steve on the road.
Ms. Walsh.
On his tricycle.
Mr. Chairman, are you going to do the discussion on the schools tonight, or?
Next.
No, we're doing it tonight. Yeah, the next 2 items. We've got 2 more.
Well, we have someone here
It's on the consent agenda.
On the consent agenda, and he might want to get home before midnight.
Fair enough, and I agree. So let's move on to the consent agenda for the time being. There's one item that I wanted to address, and this is my own fault. There's what's in there is correct, but it's the item E, letter of support for Hebrew Senior Life, 338. The letter is in there, which is something they drafted, and we're asking for us to provide, but the context of why we were doing it isn't included in the backup. I've got an email from them. I'll read it right now, but I'll also forward it to everybody.
Can I say something? The letter of support says the board. If somebody isn't on board with that letter, you're going to have to use each individual person's name so that it doesn't represent that it was the board. You know what I mean?
Well, if it's a majority of the board, I'll just change it to the majority of the board.
I'm not for it, so I'm going to let you know right now. And I don't want to take, because that's what happened when I was on finance. We had somebody that would say the finance committee, and I wanted to read a vote that shows in the letter who's in favor of it and who isn't.
Fair enough. That was also the reason that let me just read this letter real quick. We'll kind of move on to the vote, and we'll decide how we're going to move forward.
The letter was nice. It's just I'm not for the project.
It's not a problem. So this is from Deborah Morris, who is the Vice President Real Estate for Hebrew Senior Life. You might recognize her. She was at most of the meetings and presented quite often. She wrote, Dear Chair Cavey, Happy New Year. We are pleased to inform you that the Commonwealth Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities has invited Hebrew Senior Life to apply for funding for our proposed development at 338 Canton Street in Stoughton. We are grateful for your continued partnership in this process. One key component of our application will be the documented support from the town of Stoughton, which we request come from you as the chief elected official. We have attached a draft letter, but welcome you to edit it and amend it as you see fit. We would appreciate receiving a signed letter back from you on town letterhead no later than January 17th. Please let us know if you would like to meet to discuss any of the details. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Thank you, Deb. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood the context of the letter before you voted on it, and I apologize for not including that in the package.
Can I say another thing, too? This is a 40B.
It's
right?
not, no.
This one here is, I thought they were putting it under 40B.
I could be wrong. It might be.
If this goes under 40B, we vote on whether we approve it or not, or we're for it or not. That's why I was kind of concerned about the letter.
Okay. Fair enough. We can pull any items people would like to pull. I suppose you probably want to pull item E. So we'll do that. Are there any other items that people would like to pull?
I just have a question on A.
Sure. Would you mind turning your mic on just so we were able to hear you?
I have a question on A.
Sure.
I guess this is to Deborah through you. I was pretty sure that you were at the meeting on December 3rd.
Yes, I was.
It indicates that, I believe it indicates that you were not. You were, am I wrong on that? I thought the first part of that indicated that that you were remote.
December 3rd. Thanksgiving was November 28th.
But I remember a discussion that we had.
You weren't remote?
She was remote.
But I was present. Yes, but you were remotely. That's what it says.
What?
You said it was said.
I thought you were. I thought we were talking at the time. Wasn't that the meeting where you introduced the group? And you were asking for?
I'll fix it. Yeah, she'll fix it.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah. I'm okay as long as that gets changed.
Okay. Okay, I see. So this is, the question is whether or not Deborah was present in the hall.
Right.
Not, she was present at the meeting, but whether or not she's present at this hall on December 3rd. Okay, so you were present in the hall then. So then we'd have to make just a amendment to that
right.
Minutes just to strike the section that says attended remotely. It might have been carried over from the prior meeting notes. So yeah, so we'll have.
Everybody was present, Steve.
Perfect. So for December 3rd minutes, the proposed change is to remove the line attended remotely from the list of present members. So beyond that, are there anything else that wants to be pulled? Anybody wants to pull? Yeah, E. So E's pulled. So on consent agenda item A, B, C, I'll read them. A, approve open session minutes meeting of December 3rd, 2024, December 10th, 2024, and December 17th, 2024. Item B, drainage easement for the new Milton Cat facility located at 207 Page Street. Item C, electronic billboard request for use application to advertise Stoughton's Martin Luther King Day celebration. Item D, application for nonprofit change of officer, directors, and change of manager. This is Michael Romanuk, Post 1645, VFW Incorporated at 14 Seaver Street. And we're going to pull item E, so the next item is F, Page Street, implementation of fall special town meeting, Article 5. Is there a motion to approve that consent agenda item? If you'd like to speak to it, you're welcome to, but if you just want to see how it goes, then.
I would be glad to get this thing over. This thing's taken a year. We've been closed for a year for just many reasons here at the state and some of the mistakes at the VFW, but it's costing us thousands of dollars because I'm paying, since I moved to VFW at 837 Washington Street, I'm paying all the cost of being opened, and it's a year. One of the things we're applying for today, I already had approved on this thing, and it's still not approved. I had a problem with the ABC with that. So we want to get this thing over with and get that liquor license, the transfer, the change of offices. But it's pretty frustrating to the veterans of this town to close a place in January and start the paperwork in January, a year later, not have any of the licenses, the move, or any of these things. It's pretty frustrating. So we'd like to get this over as quick as we can, but it's costing the veterans and the VFW, the American Legions, thousands of dollars because I had to pay for my liability insurance for the whole year, and I haven't served one drink. My people are on unemployment. You know, these are all people in town that live in town that, you know, lost wages for a year for whatever reason it is. Some here, some at the state, and some at the VFW itself. But we would like to expedite this as fast as we can. Because, you know, me as a businessman and as a serviceman, I just think it's totally disgusting to have this. You know, I've had state senators call me, I've talked to the governor's office, I've everybody ask me, you know, hey, Kelly, what is the problem? You know, and this is kind of sad. I'd like to just get this over with and take care of business so that we can open up and do what we do best, is support veterans in the town of Stoughton.
Well, you won't get any argument from us, and we've tried to expedite, at least within this board, any request you've had as quickly as possible. We do want to support you, and hopefully we're able to get through this tonight and you're able to take the next steps. And more importantly, I want to thank you for the effort you're putting into helping that organization grow and thrive. So thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you.
So on items A through F, is there a motion to approve?
So made.
A, B, C, D, and F.
So made.
Okay, made by Mr. McCrisky, seconded by Vice Chair Carrera. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. All you consider it done. And best of luck. If there's anything else we can do for you, let us know.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Through you and to the town manager, if we could expedite whatever we have to do with ABCC from this point, even if it's a daily phone call, if we would do that, would be great. Certainly. Thank you.
Okay, so the next item is item E of the consent agenda. And that is the letter. What I provided to the board was exactly the letter that was provided. Sorry, what?
The day after it was approved by the board.
Read their letter? Yeah, you want me to read it out loud?
I'll read it.
Sure.
All right, and this is our draft for discussion here and a letter of support. Mr. Chairman, I've got to say that, you know, this issue, which I am strongly in favor of moving forward with the school project, it's unfortunate the political avenue it's taken. And I've said before that this town has done a very good job of working smarter, not harder, to make a difference in the everyday lives of our residents, our taxpayers. And there are people that make, you know, I don't know if it's their own performance or if it's their own opinion that they know more than everybody that's working on this issue combined, but almost try to vilify people because we're not agreeing with their argument, you know. And anybody that doesn't agree, you know, to invest in our kids, and if whoever it was that could do things better to keep up with our schools so that we don't, in all of our buildings like we do here on the municipal side, and the school's done, is to keep up with our schools, keep up with our town buildings, you know, and, you know, be good caretakers of the taxpayers' property. And it took us, for some reason, we stand, you know, as a community, and this is not people, individuals that do it, but as a community, we haven't put the upkeep of municipal buildings at the forefront. As you know, collectively, this board led the charge, and we made a 32-year conversation about the need of a fire station a reality. Because we come up with an innovative idea, we invested in the people that work for us, instead of paying developers and engineers and all that, putting the people to work. Mark Tisdale and his staff, the building department, Fran's office, you know, with everything that we've done, we've thought outside the box, and we've done things at a less of a cost than would be if we just stayed with what happened before with a 17-member committee coming up with a big, you know, multi-million-dollar plan, and we didn't even have land for it. You know, so we have an opportunity here to do the right thing, to serve the best interest of the residents, work within our means, and work smarter. Again, work smarter, not harder, on behalf of our taxpayers. I speak for myself. I won't, you know, try to speak for my colleagues, but I've said that right along, and I've spent my last 2 terms on this board doing just that, working to bring money into this town, give relief to our seniors, give relief to the people that need it. You know, our veterans, whatever we can do, work smarter, not harder. The logistics park was just this icing on the cake of what we can do to put money back into this town and work smarter. So I'll read this, and then I may make a comment as well, because
before you do, I just want to make sure we're all on the same subject here. Yeah. I was originally moving on to consent agenda item E, but if you're discussing,
no, I thought you said 9. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Let's just cover 9 because we're already on a roll here.
I heard 9, so sorry about that.
Yeah, we're on a roll. But I want to make sure we all know what we're talking about.
That's good. If you listen to this, we'll be done, right? So, but let me read this, Mr. Chairman.
It says, use the gavel.
Yeah. So, Well, it's good. I know how to confuse them now. I jump around, that's all. But no, whereas the South School project, if approved by the voters of the town, significant building project with financial undertaking, and whereas the board anticipates that town meeting may again approve the South School project and appropriately sufficient funds and subject to a debt exclusion ballot question, and whereas the board anticipates that construction of the new South School would render the old South School at 171 Ash Street and the Jones School at 137 Walnut Street no longer needed, and that both could eventually or separately provide value to defray the cost of the South School construction project. And whereas, if the school department does subsequently close the old school at 171 Ash and the Jones School at 137 Walnut Street, and whereas, if the town meeting subsequently transfer the care and custody of control of those properties to the Select Board under Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 15A, therefore, in consideration of the potential occurrence of the above, the board wishes to now state its purpose and intent for the benefit of the public in any future administration or membership of this board, and therefore the board does resolve and determine the following. The board shall propose and insert into town meeting warrant article proposing the transfer, care, and custody of the Old South School, 171 Ash Street, and the Jones School, 137 Walnut Street, to the Select Board, and shall be all municipal uses, including disposition, which will explicitly include the instruction and mandate that upon any sale of these property, any net proceeds shall be used to offset the cost of the South Elementary School project. The board shall declare the property surplus under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, and begin the procurement process for the sale. Upon any sale of the properties, the board shall propose and insert a town meeting warrant article appropriating any and all net proceeds to offset the South School Elementary project. And that is ready to be signed. What we want to do, Mr. Chairman, and things I've written down here and there, but we want to minimize, I think we all want to minimize the tax impact on this. We did something different on the same thing with the fire station. We built the fire station, but then we got the unprecedented ARPA grant at $6.5 million to renovate Freeman Street, which took that savings onto that project. And that was money, again, that the residents didn't have to pay. We would have gotten ARPA grants, but we were the only community that asked for it in a lump sum, making it a greater impact on public safety and the future of our space for office buildings, and again, lessening the burden on the taxpayers. So we got to make sure that we're telling people this, because sometimes if we don't, some people will say we're grandstanding, but I'm saying we're stating the facts to tell the taxpayers that we're making this effort, and it's going to result in lower cost on the residents. So and then the recent estimates on the value, of different properties, is, $4 to $6 million each. I mean, there's great things, as we all know. Right now, everything is housing, that we're talking about. Those are great properties there. Somebody might want to take it over and have their own school. I mean, there's nonprofits that could buy it or whatever. And I think that this is something that helps us move forward, helps the project, when the residents are voting, have it more informed. So it's not a political discussion, it's a factual discussion. And this is what we should be doing all the time. Sometimes, as Peter Bain has said, the comments get out there, and when they're not factual, they grow. But they grow in a negative way because they're not substantiated by facts. This is. So that is my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I will, just for the public, but also just, to make sure that we're all on the same page here. The statement you read is filled with a lot of, if statements. There's a lot of conditional things. There's a lot of things that we can't know right now that might be the case. The schools may, they might have decisions that they want to make with what happens with the schools. They have a view now. They might change them. They might give, there might be a building that they surrender and one that they keep. I think that in some of the documentation that the working group put together, there's at least a statement that they were looking to turn over the South School, but they might use the Jones School for something. I might be mistaken.
I think it's a very open comment, and I think that's why it's important, is that the residents should know that if these properties come to us, what we intend to do.
I think that's exactly right.
Anything can change. The project can change. The school department can change. They may decide they want to do something different with them. From what I've heard, it sounds like the most likely avenue is to dispose of them, because it's going to be a pretty tough sell to, keep property and buy new property. I agree. And build new property. So, again, it's up to the school committee, but I think this is one of the times, Mr. Chairman, that we need to show the school committee that we're a partner in these discussions. Because there sure are people that'll come here and sit before this board and go before town meeting and try to imply otherwise. Because confusion, sometimes rules. But that's the intent that I believe of the letter, just so that we can show the school committee and let the residents know we're trying to do what's in the best interest of all the residents and all the taxpayers. Now, whether they're paying $300 or they're paying $500, in taxes, that's important to everybody. We're all at different, areas of taxes, because all of our properties are valued differently. But again, each and every person is important, and I think that this letter conveys that message to the residents and to the school committee, that we want to be your partner.
Yeah, I think it's important to state what our current thoughts are on these properties. Right. There are a couple of things that have to happen that we have no control over, but exactly. But there's been commitments to get them here, and so I think this is pretty sensible. I typically don't like to vote on things that aren't really before us to vote specifically, but I think this is one case where I think it's important to let people know what our thoughts are. And I apologize, Mr. Carrera, you've been waiting to speak. All yours, Vice Chair Carrera.
I'm going to tell you, I don't think we have to do anything till we see what the vote comes out as. I think that's when we start worrying about it, because it isn't going to be the next day that they're going to give us the property or whatever. There's going to be a lot of discussion over what. And I'm worried that if we dispose of the property, that we're going to find a developer and he's going to throw something up, and then guess what? The school that we just built will be too small overnight, because we'll end up with all these kids, and it defeats the whole purpose of what's going on. That's why I don't think we should be jumping out and trying to, flourish the love between us and the school department. I think they know where we stand. But yeah, they do. They know. I'm pretty sure they know the way we stand.
Well, this letter, I think, is very.
I don't think we need a letter, Joe. I'm telling you right now.
No, I disagree with you, Scott,
Until the vote goes by. Yeah. Then we can make the deal with them if we want to take.
This letter doesn't commit anything. It makes a statement that we're willing to do that we're ready to be that. The information, if it's not out there, Scott, you can't start a discussion. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Joe Bayeda put it right out it was on SMAC on a thing that said, the property, if we don't use it, we don't need it. And as it stands, he said he was talking on the South School property. He says, we're going to turn it back to the selectmen. They can figure out what they're going to do with it.
Right. And that's
so
what this letter
I
said.
need a letter to follow that statement.
It doesn't hurt anything, Scott, when people are making wrong information out there, and when this letter's read.
I don't think we need to try to quell wrong information.
Well, Scott,
this letter is not going to stop that.
We have factual information.
We're going to do a little bit more of one at a time.
We have factual information, and don't convey it to the residents. And as we know, what certain social media platforms do is they go out and they spread their information. They make accusations about where the select board and individual members stand on an issue. That's what I think this is important for. It's factual. It's our message. We voted. People may not agree with us, but we're making decisions. And that's what we're supposed to do here. We're not supposed to be afraid of making tough decisions, disagreeing with anyone, but then again, servicing the residents that put us here. So you can vote against it if you want, but I just think it's worth, the letter, it's worth being voted on, and go from there.
I'd like to hear from other members of the board. Mr. Gito.
When I read this letter, what I read was that the town would be willing to take over the property and look at what other municipal uses might be made of the building, and if there were none, that we would dispose of the property and take the money and put it into paying off the school. I mean, that's not a terribly revolutionary idea. I mean, our responsibility is to look around when we have property and say, do we have any use for the property that is important to the town? And if not, then why should we keep it on our rolls? It just seems like it's what we would ordinarily do. And to say that publicly seems to be helpful if people are thinking that we're going to somehow or another do something nefarious with it. So I don't see a problem with this.
Ms. Roberts.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. When I read the letter, the first thing that came to my mind, isn't it written in one of our protocols that once a school-owned property is vacated by the school, it automatically becomes town property? Is that a true statement? Yes or no?
I believe that's true. There might be an involvement of town meeting.
So I see nods of affirmation.
100% sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see Mr. Carrara nodded in affirmative, and Mr. Coulter, through you, Chairman.
I don't have an opinion. Thank you, Madam. I'm sorry for interrupting you. I don't have an opinion, but just to clarify that point, by our bylaw and by state law, when a school finishes using the building, it automatically reverts under the care, custody, and control of the board and the town. What Superintendent Baeta has made clear, and it was very important, is that he does have no intended use of those two buildings once he vacates them, and that he will turn them voluntarily over to the town. The purpose of this resolution is to state an intent, because taxpayers want to know what their tax bill is going to be. And for this board to pass a resolution saying that the proceeds, which could be between $4 and $6 million each, will go towards offsetting the debt of the school, is a very material point in this process. Now, the school has dropped the price, from what I read, by $1.25 million. There'll be another $1 million that is shaved off it because of the accounting and so forth. So let's call that $2.5 million. If there's another $8 to $10 million coming off it, that changes the model very significantly. And so I won't weigh in on whether it should or should not be passed. That's not my place. But the intent is to give citizens guidance, the best information we can possibly have as to what the impact on them will be. The school building committee reported to me yesterday, with or without this, they see the bill for a $500,000 home going under $300 a year. Not by much, but under $300. If through your actions you can take $10 to $12 million off that debt service, I won't try to guess what that will be, but it'll be substantially lower, and that is material. Again, I can't weigh in on what you should do. That's your call. I just want to make sure everybody had all the information. The superintendent has stated his plan for turning these buildings over.
Thank you for confirming.
Mr. Chairman.
Wait just 1 minute, please. Thank you for confirming what I thought was our bylaw, but other residents don't know that. So we state that out front. That is our intent. The second point on this document is, if we do have control of these properties, if what happens next, we don't have a plan, but if that next step is to sell it and that benefits the resident, which all of us are, that is a good thing, and I sign off on that 100%. So that's all I'm saying. Mr. Gito.
I agree with all you said. I just want to be clear that we have the responsibility of looking at that property and determining whether or not it's important to keep it for a town use, or if not, then to do exactly what we've all been saying is a good idea, which is to sell it and use the money for the to offset the school costs. But it's not. I want to be clear that we have two things to look at, not just that it will come to us and automatically go to offset. But that would be the intent unless there's something important to be done with the property. So I want to be clear on that, because it sounded like the town manager's definition of what might happen might not have stressed that other part as well as.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. I think it's important to emphasize the fact that this is, not only is it not binding on the school committee or town meeting, it's not binding on a future select board. Like, it really is just, if this were to happen today, what might we do? And so you know, if people weren't asking this exact question, I would wonder why we were even doing this. Except it keeps on coming up, and it has for almost a year now. What are you going to do with the school?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and I've heard this a couple times, is that, what if we wanted to use them for something else? What if, and Mr. Gito just mentioned, what if we wanted to use it for another municipal use? What about the Armory? We bought that, and how long we've been sitting on it, okay? So this takes away, granted, that building when we got it, Scott, was it $100 or $1?
Dollar.
A dollar? A dollar, okay? And what have we done with it? I gave the dollar. You gave the dollar? Okay, and what have we done with it? You want it back? So take the building. But my point,
please. I'll take the building.
Yeah, my point is that all that building has done, another building that a past select board purchased across the town, downtown, at $450,000, we put people in there just to occupy the building. No use for it. No use. This is nothing. There's nothing that could do better than to take the sale of those buildings. You're not going to add to housing or whatever, who knows what the use would be, but you're going to decrease. And let's just remember, the bottom dollar is we're going to reduce the cost of the school to the residents, making that decision a little easier or more informative. So we could sit here, I guess, and talk about it all night, but I think it's a very simple decision. It's not binding, but it lets people know where we're at. And maybe this will get the Armory project going. Who knows?
Mr. Carrera.
Deborah.
Yes, sir.
What would happen if we take the Jones School and the developer buys it and he puts all high-rise apartments in there? What happens to Halloran Park out back? It gets taken over by whoever the kids live in there. That's going to be their new playground. Not where the elderly walk with their dogs and they meet. I watch these people. I see them when I drive by, when I cut around. They're enjoying themselves. The kids go out there, they're flying kites, they're playing. That will all end, because the people that are going to move into those are going to take that as that's their backyard. Then there's going to be infighting. Next thing you know, the schools are going to be overloaded. Housing does not add anything to your tax base because of the cost of the children that are going to go to the schools. That's all I'm trying to say. Don't be too quick to push this stuff out the door, and the next thing you know, you get a guy who's going to put in 400 apartments.
Mr. Carrera, I have Vice Chair Carrera, I have a question for you. We don't necessarily have to sell to everyone that wants to buy. So we
Well,
can
this is the way the panic is because we have to get the cost down immediately.
You know, each one of us have an idea of what we want to do with every plot of land. Like, I like open space. I might be in competition with Mr. Gito. Yeah, build some trees over there. You know, but that is me personally.
That's what I was thinking, the same way you were thinking, that
That's right.
you could add that to Halloran Park.
So we have to be very
pull him out of the center and make him over
proactive
there.
and strategic if it comes to this. And I know we have all done this because we are strategic thinkers. We have to decide what is the best use for that land, and we don't have to sell it to anybody that knocks on our door. Right. And, you know, if we decide that, hey, we agree on that, if we get to that point, we agree to sell to that developer for what they're going to do, and that's in sync with our master plan goals, then we do it. If not, we say, wait a minute, let's take this to executive session, or let's take this time to rethink. We don't necessarily have to do a knee-jerk reaction to everything that comes about. So that's all I'm saying.
I'd actually just like to add that actually in the RFP that we put out for the sell of the property, we could identify exactly what we wanted it to be used for.
Oh, I'm loving that, Mr.
It could be senior
Chairman.
housing. It could be for a variety of things that won't have the impacts that we're concerned about. That is for a future board to deliberate on. But there's certainly a way to keep this from sliding into some sort of hellish landscape where we can't control how many people go to the schools or what that land's going to become. There's ways for us to address that as a board.
Mr. Chairman, this document would give us just that. And my next point was going to be, when we say what we decide to do, it doesn't have to become a housing project where it's rent-driven. There's been public-private partnerships in other parts of the Commonwealth that substantial differences in pay of dollar amounts for buildings where it becomes a private-public partnership for senior housing dedicated to Stoughton residents. Dedicated to Stoughton residents, okay? So it doesn't go over in the Halloran Park is not taken over. It's been done in other cities and towns. In Chelsea, some of the old buildings were done there. There was a private-public partnership where it became senior housing dedicated to the people that grew up in Chelsea. We know what we see now, that we got Rose Forte, that 20 years ago, it was only Stoughton people. Now, you can come in from any other part of the Commonwealth and get in there faster than a senior who's paid taxes their whole life in town. I mean, probably me, I'll be looking for one of those by then. But it would be an opportunity. Will it happen? Who knows? But the option is there. And this is what I think what we need to do is be forward thinkers and say, let's just open ourselves up to the idea. It's not locking us into anything that it's going to happen, but I think it sends the right message when these things are going on and we're talking about money and tax increases and trying to survive, and then people vilify, certain things and say, oh, this is going to be bad for the residents. We're trying to just come up with a different idea. Think outside the box. Because the minute that we stop having new ideas on this board, none of us deserve to get reelected. So, sorry to get a little heated, but I'm passionate about it, So.
Is there any more comments, questions? I think if somebody wants to make a motion.
The only comment that I would have is those people who say, oh my goodness, we might have a huge development project in the town. We may have forgotten that only a few years ago we voted to change the zoning in the downtown, and that we are an MBTA community. And so whether or not we want to just say, oh, get angry about these couple of pieces of property here and paint an awful picture, we have that opportunity throughout the town anyway. And we may, in fact, be looking to do some of that with some of the things that we're thinking about now. So those people who want to have a scare tactic about, oh, the town is going to do something bad, I think Ms. Roberts had it right. That in fact, if we control that property, we can decide what's going to happen, as opposed to just have something happen to us. So I think that this is a good letter, not a bad letter.
So we can either let this go for tonight, or if anybody would like to make a motion to adopt this, I would.
Second.
Okay, made by Mr. McCrisky, seconded by Deborah Roberts. All in favor of adopting this letter? Are we able to get a copy of this tonight so we can sign it? I know the Finance Committee is meeting tomorrow. It might be helpful for them as well, if this passes. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, so it's 4-1 to adopt this letter. And though we have one more item, consent agenda item E, they were asking for this by the 17th, and it is after 10 o'clock, and I'm not going on. Even though it's only one item, I don't want to sit here for another 15 minutes, 30 minutes. So we'll pick this up again at our next meeting. It won't be on the consent agenda. I'll pull it out so we can actually just discuss it as an item. And in the meantime, if anybody has any questions, I'll forward the email that I received from them for your own records. And there's no other items to discuss for tonight. So if there's a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Made by Mr. Gito, seconded by by Vice Chair Carrera. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The time is 10:18. Have a wonderful evening, everybody, and thank you so much for your time.